Today on Homeworthy, we're stepping inside the homes of talented interior designers. First, we visit Kristen Paton's beautifully restored 1700s home on Nantucket, where she celebrates the home's rich maritime history with thoughtful design and repurposed materials. Then, Angela Geyer takes us through her stunning Houston home, a chintz-lover's haven filled with soothing colors, vintage-inspired decor, and a blend of modern elegance. Next, we explore Robin Pelissier's peaceful Hingham, Massachusetts home, where neutrals and solid textures create a calm space perfect for family gatherings. Finally, Adnan Anwar invites us into his vibrant New York City apartment, showcasing his love for textiles, vintage finds, and curated art. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, welcome to Nantucket. I'm Kristen Patton and I'm looking forward to sharing my home with you. Come on in. This home was built in 1760. It has seen 5 sea captains live here. This is the original entranceway and the original staircase to the home. You're also looking at wide plank floors that are all original to the home. They would have been in the pumpkin pine orange color that is typical, but the floors were in really bad shape, so we actually had to remove all the pumpkin pine and brought it back to the natural wood. This is actually a really important part of the house. This is the mast of the fireplace that hosted 5 fireplaces in this house, and it basically is what keeps the structure up. So this holds everything up. And right now we have this beautiful grass cloth from Nantucket artist Audrey Stark. She's a designer herself and a wonderful artist. And instead of trying to hide the mast, we actually enhanced it with her amazing wallpaper. So we actually had her wallpaper printed on a sisal, so it actually gave a little sheen to it because it's quite a tight little small hallway, as you can tell. And it's a nautical scene. It's all the whaling. It's kind of, they're kind of going out of whale, so it's a little bit traditional of the island and an important part of the whaling community here on Nantucket. But it's really beautiful, and I think it's a great way to kind of hide this horrible mast because it was really an eyesore when we saw it. So as I said, we tried to enhance it versus hide it. So it's a tiny, tiny little hallway. All the original joinery is here, all the millwork, all these original raised panel doors. We just painted it all a dark sort of maritime blue, so it all go away because we couldn't hide the perfections of the plaster. We kept it, and as I said, we tried to just cover it, make it go away, but also enhance it. So it's a tight, tight, tiny little room. This original staircase, all we did here is we painted, and all the joinery, all the plaster is all original. And we have a collection of antique woolies going up the wall, just trying to keep the whole maritime thing coming through the home. And I just keep adding to it. Every time I go to an auction house, I bid on more. And that's the intention of this, to try to keep it old and just sort of classical maritime. So this home is from the 1760s. It was actually being sold by the Nantucket Historic Association. And I saw it and fell in love with it, but of course it needed a ton of work. We had been here on the island since 1997 and had a small cottage further down the street. And kind of as an interior design hobby, I loved to go into all these homes that were for sale. And when I saw this, I just immediately fell in love with it. But it was a big project. It was definitely a passion project. And it also came with 90 pages of conditions upon the sale. So there were a lot of things you absolutely had to sign off on preserving, which would have always been my intention, but you had to, this was definitely a labor of love project, but it was my labor of love. So it was much more than just an interior design project. We actually had to do some major restoration in the back of the house, and we just loved having this kind of project. We felt very grateful to be part of the history here and preserving this home. And just to have a home, it's literally one of the oldest, it's what was called the fish lots, which is one of the oldest pieces of property on the island. and 5 sea captains have lived here. So although I don't do themed interior design, that was a great precedent to say, okay, 5 sea captains, we're going to make this really celebrating the maritime heritage of this home. And that's how we kind of took this on, and the love of it and the passion. And our family, as I said, has been coming here since 1997, so it's a very important part of our life. We just love being here. We love owning a little piece of history on Nantucket. So the original house was a 2.5-story lean-to, and it was just a very simple shaker house. The back of the house was actually where the cooking structure was, and it was a separate building for cooking on a rubble foundation. Over the years, it had seen multiple renovations, very unsympathetic, but multiple renovations. By the time we got here, the back of the house was actually sinking. So there was really no way we could preserve the back L of the house. So we had to go through extensive HDC and zoning planning and tons of permission. It actually took us almost 3 years to get through that. So as I said, a labor of love, a big labor of love, because it took a lot to get through this. What we were allowed to do is we were allowed to take down certain walls, but not everything. And we really had to just keep the footprint. It started as about a 2,500 square foot house, and it's now a 3,500 square foot house. This tiny staircase was the only staircase in the entire house, which was included both the original structure, the original 1760 property, and the newer additions. The newer addition, which we removed, had a staircase, but it was external only. It wasn't even internally part of the house. So, as I said, we got a permission from HDC, and we were allowed to remove the walls and rebuild, but we actually kept all historic materials, all the beams, all the doors, and we purposely used it throughout during the construction to make sure we were keeping all the really important historic pieces of the building. So complementing my lovely wallpaper is my collection of hats. I wear a hat constantly. During daffodil season, of course, I have a Peter Beaton hat with daffodils ready to go, because you have to wear a hat during daffodil weekend here. Gary McBurney and Bill Richards during Nantucket Design always host an amazing dinner party. So they always leave us with a hat that's part of a party favor. This was this year's Nantucket by Design party hat. And we all had to wear them throughout the dinner, which was super fun. But my endless, I just keep adding every year. My fisherman hat. I love all my hats, but nice to have them. And of course, my Italian one, which I love. That's when I'm being serious. But it kind of breaks up and keeps this house a little fun. You don't want everything, even though it's all antique, you don't want it to be just a total museum. So we had to have a little fun. So we just found this new, it's actually a contemporary, it's not really a hat stand, but we turned it into one with the bamboo, and I just thought it complemented all the serious darkness in here. And then of course, every dog owner who has a dog that needs to go out needs one of these bells from in town, leather bells, so that's how the dogs know how to go out. So we give those as favors all the time when people buy homes. And our bin lock, which we added, there was to be honest, a really small piece of wooden hardware here, but we added this historic bin lock, which was very fitting for this style of house, which I love. Now we're walking into the living room. This is an important room because it's literally one of the original rooms of this home. This is the living room of the original salt box. And again, you can see these amazing floors. You don't see these very often. You can see all the little wormholes, but these are original, back to 1760. I like to do interiors that have pride of place. So this home was historic, and it's important that the interior kind of goes with the architecture. These are the original beams. We stained them just to make them look a little cleaner and neater, and gives it a little contemporary when you see it. When they had been all painted over, and there were layers and layers and layers of paint. So we took the time to strip them and bring the stain back. And I think that's an important part of the room because it sort of sets the tone with these floors as well. But everything's original here. The little shutters had the little heart cutouts. We promised to keep those, which of course we have. And the furniture is a real hodgepodge. We lived in London for a very long time, so I had collected a lot of old antiques from England that were just in storage units. So you see a lot of dark mahogany furniture, which is somewhat out of vogue right now, but I love it and I still think it's very beautiful. But we tried to mix it. These are contemporary chairs. It's from a company called John Himmel in Chicago. And a lot of people love coastal homes in Nantucket, but here I had to really keep it, as I said, more historic, but I tried to bring in some elements of more contemporary. Some would argue that these are too contemporary, and I get that, but I think they're fun. And I love the rope, and this house is full of rope and natural and sisal, and just it goes on. So I think they're quite perfect. I love to support the local artists on island. This is Joan Griswold. I found these at the Raphael Osana auction here on island. That he has auctions almost every weekend. So I'm constantly touring his auction house for good finds. And then I had these reframed. They're in a terrible, terrible old frame. I don't think anyone realized these were Joan Griswold's, so I feel very lucky to have those. This bench is very pretty. It's an inlay with bone. It's contemporary, but I love, again, the extra element it adds to the room. These are beautiful lithographs. These are from my house in London, black and whites, from a great map store, historic map store that I used to do work in when we lived in London. This is Shane Greco. Sylvia Antiques in town sells these, and this was a gift from family members, which I love. And it's an octopus, and I just think he's amazing. My John Rosselli lamps, I absolutely love these. These, again, are old inlay, but John Rosselli in New York sells these, and I saw them, and they're a bit of an investment, but I just thought they were so perfect in this room. I don't love rooms that are full of pattern, at least for my own homes. I love this kind of timeless design, and the colors that we use, the greens and the browns, we used all historic paints in here. So I tried to keep going with the historic colors through the elements we brought in. A little bit of leather, a little bit of sisal. Love this kind of olive green, a little bit of a glamour tape that we added, but I think it works. Again, this pen box, I got this, again, Raphael Osana. A little ode to Parrish Hadley. This was my very first design firm when I got out of college, one of my first design firms that I got the luxury and luck to work for. Over here, Biedermeier. Biedermeier, not you either love it or you hate it. I think it's quite beautiful in here. This came from my home in London. Again, mishmash that sort of all worked. And again, this basket collection. Baskets are a very big part of Nantucket. You'll see Nantucket lightship baskets everywhere here. But what I tried to do is go through thinking through the maritime and the China trade and the different captains that would be trading throughout. So these are actually Japanese baskets. So again, I got these at Raphael Osana's, but I think they're amazing. And I just keep adding to them. And it just brings another texture, another element to the room. Again, not themey, but kind of special. Original fireplace. This is a William Johnson painting. He's at the Peabody Essex Museum. I actually found him at an antique shop. He had a tear in him, which you cannot see. I had him restored, and then I went to my frame shop up in Boston, A Street Frame, and together we added this more contemporary frame. But I think he really, it makes him stand out, and I think it really finishes him well, and you can't even see the tear. So obviously it's summer, but here you have some leftover hydrangea arrangements from my Thanksgiving. These are from my backyard, my hydrangea, but we're not using the fireplaces right now, so we're kind of hiding them. This is a great basket I found in the south of France many years ago, and just a little fun arrangement that we made during Thanksgiving, sort of left over some feathers and dried hydrangeas. That always fun. Oh, this is sort of cute. So I've had this chair for a long time. Again, Raphael Osana here on island. But my eldest daughter, she's now 27, but at the time she used to sit in this cute little chair. Maybe the dog had a chunk, but we've had that forever, and it's kind of cute, kind of special. In all my homes, it's really important that people feel very comfortable. Although it looks like a very grown-up house and serious, we have a house full of children when they were little, and now of course they're grown up, but dogs, nothing's precious here. Although it's things I've collected over the years, and I have a lot of pride of place of my home, but you want to be able to come in your home, put your feet up, read a book. This room sees a lot of beating, even though it's a white sofa. This is a perennial cover on it. My dogs, you know, they lounge here. They love to lounge in the sun. This couch has seen naps, these beautiful pillows, even with the beautiful serious trim. People sleep on this. So I want people never to feel uncomfortable in my homes. It's really important that you use your home and you love your home. It's not a museum. It may look nice, but you really want it to be a respite, a place that you use everything. We use every bit of our homes. This house has seen parties, but it's seen naps, it's seen book reading. This room sometimes is a Zoom room when we have a bunch of us working here, but it's very important that it's real and we keep it super real. Might be cleaned up a little extra today, but my Biedermeier actually has a computer on it half the time and people sit here and Zoom, so it's functional. This is sort of pretty. This is, my husband had this on my wedding day waiting in the limousine, and it's a screenplay to The Breakfast at Tiffany. Kind of special in this beautiful leather binding. This is a contemporary rug. This is from Stark. I do have a little pattern here just to kind of hide the reality of dogs and dirty feet, but I think it has a nice pattern to it and it sort of warms up the room. We use this room more in the winter than we do in the summer because everyone's really outside. Now we're in the family room. When I bought the house, the NHA was actually using this as their dining room. It had a really strange closet that was definitely contemporary that was on one of the walls. And the wainscoting was original on the other half of the room, which you'll see. And I promised to leave that that was one of the conditions when we bought the house. So what we ended up doing is adding the same wainscoting and around the rest of the room. And then I also created these built-ins that are full of lots of objects. This is Robert Stark. He's an artist here on Island. He's since passed away, but he and his son still own a gallery in town. I found that also at Raphael Osana's auction, and I gave that to my husband for his birthday. A beautiful box. I found this. Literally, it's some antique shop. It's an original Wedgwood box, which I think is really beautiful with the Wedgwood detailing. Love that. Of course, you can't have a New England guy without a little Harvard Gate. My kids, I always encourage my clients, you want your children's art out, so you keep it real. So even though we have some great painting, keep it real with the things you find. That's what makes your homes more about you. Oh, these are kind of fun. All of these bottles, we found these during construction when we opened up the walls. So I've just kept them because I thought it was really fun to see little trinkets of old history that we found in the house. So that's really fun. This is a mix of old and new. Again, we have the original floors that carry out through here. It's a very awkward room because it's very long. It took me a bit to figure out how to make it work. We probably use this room more in the winter because everyone's outside, but it's a very, very cozy family room. So we have great movie nights in here. This is a great puzzle table. So if someone else is watching a movie, you can be sitting in the corner doing a puzzle, or you have your reading area. This is a Nantucket basket. I do a different basket every summer. I have a whole collection, some I've given away. Actually, this is my daughter's, Eliza Patton, Nantucket, 2008. So kind of fun to see. This is an important part of history here, doing these lightship baskets. So I love to have my kids make these. This is a fun painting. I lived in London for a very long time. I also had a store, Kristen Patton Home. So I was constantly going to Paris and sending containers back. This is from Cliancourt in Paris, and I just loved it. It's fish and cheese, and I just thought this is a fun composition. Not famous, but I loved it. This is the artist on Island called John Devaney. He's here and also in Boston. When I first bought that piece of art, I really disliked the frame, and I thought it was way too much. So I actually spent money to soften the frame and make it really more simple. And then when I hung it up, I realized he needed to have that Rococo frame. So we popped it back on. He's kind of fun. He's a sailor. Over here, again, the house is so serious with all the history, but we brought in this slim Aarons that came from another property, and I just love it. And we spend a lot of time in Europe as well, and our kids were all born in London, so I thought it was fun to have a little piece of the French coast, French Riviera here. Another Nantucket Association piece of art that I found. Same with this one. This one's Susan Briskman. She's a Nantucket artist. This is the original fireplace. We didn't do anything to it. We actually were not allowed to do anything to it. So the whole room is one color. It's a Gettysburg gray. It's just one color throughout. So it kind of hides the imperfections because these are all the original plaster. So what we did was we just cleaned it up where we could. But as I said, we had a lot of conditions. So we just made the whole room the same color. So everything kind of goes away and it feels just more cohesive. You can't be in Nantucket without a whale spear. So we found this at an auction house, maritime art, so that's kind of fun. What's kind of interesting is the beams. The beams were original to this house, and again, they were covered in paint. So we spent a lot of time, actually this one may have been okay, but others were just actually painted over. So we spent a lot of time to bring it back because I think they're really special and that's part of the history. And you can see how this original beam is actually in the window casing. Our on-island contractor, Geyer Maloney, actually we tried to make the ceiling look old to match the walls. So the plasterer worked hard with us so that the ceiling would actually match the walls even though the ceiling was new, so that it kept that continuity in the home. Here we have the beams as well, but you can see it, you know, it adds a lot of character, and I think really celebrating the character of these old homes is super important here. You know, a lot of people come to Nantucket and they want that typical blue and white coastal, and nothing wrong with that, but this house you really had to celebrate all the historic culture and all the historic pieces of this home, and so we had to kind of go with that. But then, you know, even in an old home like this, you have these modern touches that give it a little life so it doesn't feel just so old and granny-like. Contemporary tables. As I said, 5 sea captains have lived here. So part of the decor theme was to go with the idea of campaign and maritime. And I thought these fit. They're contemporary, but they have their leather, they have the simple Parsons and the campaign hardware. So I thought they were very fitting in this house. These are contemporary. These are from Vaughan. They are a ceramic vase that is all tortoise, but I love them and I feel like it adds another texture to this room because this room could be pretty drab on its own with the Gettysburg, which although I love the color, it just, not everyone would understand it because it does get a little dreary, and a lot of people, as I said, want those cool blue and white colors, whereas I really had to embrace 1760. So now we're entering the new wing of the house. We're leaving the original 1760 structure, and this is where I had the challenge to make sure the new wing just didn't look like a contemporary addition. I wanted it to really have a flow. So I kept the Gettysburg going through, the original colonial colors going through, and this is our mudroom. You're really supposed to enter through here. We don't. We end up using the kitchen. These are amazing sconces I found in First Dibs that kind of go in with that British colonial look and have the Star Hurricane. These were kind of a splurge, but I just felt they were so perfect here. Antique chairs that I've collected over the years, hall chairs. I love my dogs, but they're not always great with my antiques. We had a little chunk out of that, but that just adds to the character. And now coming in here, these are old beams that we salvaged when we took off this back L of the house and repurposed them. So we tried to use as much as possible. This was a transom. Again, we tried to use as much old material from this back L, the original back L, as possible. So now we're coming into my powder room, and the powder room, actually we salvaged all the original sheathing to the back L of the house, and we've reused it almost as wallpaper. So all the walls, all the ceiling are the original sheathing, and we treated it, of course, but there it is. And then I found this piece of stone back in Hyannis that already had this leathered texture to it, which I thought was really great. And you wouldn't really think of marble in this house, but I think it works really well with all the colors and the texture. Again, John Sylvia in town, one of his artists. A little bit of Etsy with a little rope. My office had the 33 made for me as a gift. Contemporary sconces and a contemporary rope mirror. My beloved waterworks with tarnished brass. These are fun. These are from Portobello Road. When we lived in England, I used to go to Portobello Road every Saturday. So these have been around a very long time. More of my husband's handiwork with our ready-made shades, but I just think they're great. Not everything has to be expensive. This is very fun. This is a gift someone had made for me a very, very long time ago. Nantucket basket, and has my initials in it, and I treasure it. It was a gift and I just love it. Actually, here's the inside of it. 2000, pretty special. I should use it more, but I like it so much and I'm afraid to hurt it, so I use it more as art. But I love that. The floors in here are limestone, Waterworks limestone called Piedmont. I just love it. It's just enough to keep with a historic interior, but a little bit, not glam, but I just love it. It makes me happy every time I see it. In here, this is my mudroom. I can't show you inside because it's full, but we added some leather detailing. Again, a company in London called Turnstile, which I think is really nice. My father-in-law had these lovely hats. We do scalloping season. So he had these team hats made for us of 33, which I really like. My son's company, Joss Bartlett, little hat for him. And my husband had this Anya Heinmark gift for me, made up, Fred and Harry, and then the house, which I think is kind of fun. Just another lithograph, again, from my beloved King's Maps in London that I buy a lot of things for clients and myself. We added these doors. This was a really dark hallway in the original structure, and we added these doors and just a little bit of wallpaper that just give it a little texture as we're transitioning now into the more contemporary wing of the house. But again, trying to make it all mesh together so it doesn't feel jerky and out of place. It just feels continuing. I like each room to almost have a surprise. So we went from paint to now we're into texture, and now another surprise. I like the vistas to kind of be surprising so that you look forward to the next vision. Now we're walking into my kitchen, and I like to give my interior projects almost a story, if you will. Not a theme, but a story. And as we had 5 sea captains live here, I very much went with the idea of maritime, colonial, and this is a break front that is actually, my idea here was a campaign piece, which would have been appropriate in the time. And it's actually my bar. It hides a wine cabinet and a drinks fridge and wine. It's loaded with all my tableware and placemats and napkins. And then, of course, endless glasses for entertaining and drinks. We love to have a party here. We do a lot of entertaining. So this bar gets set every single night. More of my handmade baskets I've made over the years, and just collectibles throughout the years. These are cute little Firkin lamps that I got at Raffaello Sana's that I love. I love a nice martini at the end of the night, as does all my kids. So my husband had gifted me this martini set with the octopus, which we love and we use all the time, and just things that we collect all the time. This is fun. This was a gift when we lived in London. Friends of ours gave this to us as, quote unquote, the life of the party, so that we kept going. So we love that, and we keep that in here. This house does a lot of entertaining, so it's an important piece in the room. And lots of collectibles, Wedgwood plates, colonial plates that we've been collecting forever. We do scalloping season here, so these are our roadies for scallop season with our 33 and our scallop that good friends gifted us. Lots of collections, but we love this piece, and it's, as I said, in the style of campaign. Great hardware. Original Whitechapel, which is a company in Midwest that makes the original hardware. I kind of gave this kitchen the story of sort of colonial tavern, if you will. We added the beams. This is all the brand new wing of the house. We really wanted it to feel very congruous to the original rooms. This is a real kitchen. We do real cooking, lots of entertaining. This is a 10-foot island that sees a bar set up at night. It sees lots of entertaining, lots of friends. We work at this counter. We absolutely love this kitchen. We have a combination of very simple shaker style cabinets that are painted that would have been historically correct. We added all the beams. We have this more contemporary island with the Cerussed oak that kind of gives it a little more contemporary flair. I saw this marble at Liamar in Hyannis, and I absolutely fell in love with it. To me, it just almost looks like sand or waves, so I felt like it was appropriate, and of course we had it honed. But I love this, and I get more compliments on that. It's called Nero Diamante. I found these two light fixtures in London. I really fell in love with a pair of light fixtures from Ann Morris in New York, but they were not in my budget. So I kept searching further and found these, and I feel like they really set the tone. They were technically train station lights that were reproductions, but they just felt very fitting in my little colonial style pub kitchen, pub tavern. I love to have art. I love to have art in a room, especially in a kitchen. This is the center of our home. It's an epicenter. We do so much in here. So it's loaded with our art. I love my champagne, so we found these fun Veuve Clicquot's. Actually, it has a real bottle in it, but had Nantucket Paton. I had a store. These are left over from my store, but they're fun. They're actually ice skating rinks. And I love my picture lights. It just gives another glow of light. This is my Cornot. We do a ton of cooking, so I love that. I think it's super fun. One of my best friends in Switzerland sent me these bells from her canton in Switzerland. They're actual real cowbells, which I love. One of my favorite things, my needlepoint that my good friend Fleur did. All my collection of cookbooks, which I really do use a lot. My husband just gifted me a birthday week out at the ranch in California, so these are actually new to our collection, but we use these all the time. Now we're gonna move into our dining room, which is really an extension of the kitchen. I decided to make this cased opening because the two rooms were too big and we don't technically have a formal dining room. So this was a last minute decision, which sometimes happens when you're designing. This cased opening, which separates the two rooms and gives a little bit of difference in height. We actually found all this wood material later. This is not original to the house. We actually found an old barn in Ohio and added this material to kind of make this really go with my colonial tavern feeling and make it not just feel like a brand new addition. The banquette, I always knew I wanted to do a banquette. These are actually all the old doors that couldn't fit in the house, and we just stained them to make this cool banquette. It was actually Dwyer, my builder's idea. He did the work at the Languedoc Bistro down in town, and he had done one for the restaurant, and I just thought it was a brilliant way to reuse the doors. It's cozy when we're here dining. This is not an important table. It's just a contemporary resto table, but it sees a lot of entertaining, and I also use this as my scallop wreath building table, so it's also arts and crafts, so it needed to be sturdy. We do a lot of entertaining. This little area has seen probably 16 people sit here all at the same time, and I have lots of different layers of lighting. I've got the picture light, I have the wall lights. We always turn on these John Rosselli Hurricanes. It makes it very, very intimate. But another trick is with all the windows, if you sneak through, you can see the hornbeams in my backyard. I have little sneaky uplights that are hidden in the trees. So when you're here dining, the whole backyard actually illuminates. It's a very small area, but the hornbeams are so architectural, and I have just enough lighting, so it just adds to the ambiance of the dinner. And you have your candlelight, but then you have just that touch of lighting in the background, which really is kind of special. These pictures are kind of fun. These are lithographs I got at Raphael's. They were terrible. They were in actually just really crappy aluminum frames. And I took them to my lady Liz at 8th Street Frame, and it was really her idea to add this cerusing with my kitchen, not to match it, but just to make it not feel so funereal and dark. It just makes it a little bit contemporary. It's okay to add contemporary elements to very traditional decor. And you know, here we have the maritime theme. They're all different, but they were just so perfect for this wall. I mean, sometimes you just find things and they're just perfection. They were just made for these walls. And again, here's more of our do-it-yourself. So if we need to have it be a little more intimate, or if we need to let the light in, some of our little do-it-yourself shades, cheap and cheerful. My crab is very special. I used to have a home furnishing store, as I mentioned earlier, in Cambridge. He came from Cléancourt in Paris. He's teak, he's hand carved. He was found, he's technically from Spain, but I found him in the flea markets. He's been here a while, and he's missing a leg, but that's okay. So I thought it's a good idea to point out these chairs. Not everything in your house has to be precious. So when I was doing the decor in this house, it was during COVID, so it was really hard to get anything because all the factories had shut. So I found these actually on Amazon. And I thought they were so perfect because it kind of had my theme. It had the rattan, it had the dark wood, and they were very, very inexpensive. So I thought that's kind of a good interior design trick of high-low. My hurricanes are actually a hell of a lot more than 10 chairs, but high-low balance, that was it to me from me. And of course I have 2 more lithographs of the whaling scenes, which I think are really great. And how perfect. I just found them and they just fit perfectly and pretty amazing. Sometimes you just find things. I think I need to point out my woofers. This is my puppy dog corner. We were living in London at the time, and Max, my first sheepdog, couldn't come to the States because of quarantine laws. So good friends of ours had Max painted, so he'd always be in the US. We came from a visit. And then Harry, you met. Harry's running around, Dirty Harry. And this was Fred. We just lost Fred at November, but this is my little corner of my Polish sheepdogs. These are both done by my friend Erica, who's an artist at the Art Association here on Nantucket, and we love those. I love this chair. It's good to point this out too. This was a good precedent image. Sometimes you find something that sets the tone. I knew I was going with this kind of colonial tavern feeling, and we saw my colonial bar, my campaign bar, but these are actually contemporary. I found these at First Dibs. They're Ralph Lauren, actually. It's new fruit wood, but I just loved the sisal and the roping, and I just thought that was just another great detail, and they're just perfect here. And they're knockoffs of what's called Orkney chairs in Scotland, and it's just Ralph Lauren's take on it, but I thought they were super cool. This house was featured last summer at the Nantucket Garden Club tour. So we had a Nantucket Captain's House book made that really tells about the history of this house, and they are available for sale through our office. But what's kind of cool, if you decide to buy one, this shows really what this house went through. The front room that we saw earlier, that's the foundation. It's the tree trunks. So we actually lifted those old boards that are still there, but we lifted them because we had to reinforce the tree trunk foundation. But in the 1760s, that's literally what they used for your foundation. So it's kind of a cool special detail. But anyway, the book tells a lot of the history and follows a lot of what happened to this home, our passion project. Another whale, we collect whales wherever we go. When we were dropping off our daughter in college in California, we saw him and he had to come home. My office gifted this basket to me during one of our installations, which is kind of cool. And I have all my collections of my Nantucket books. My husband's aunt, Phyllis Forbes, wrote this book, Letter from China, which is very cool, about the China trade, which is a very kind of cool maritime book, which is kind of special. And this is just our little corner for anything Nantucket, kind of special. An old picture of Scott and I in England going to Glyndebourne, which is kind of special. We'll take you outside soon, but the ironmonger shed, which is original to the property, which was used for an ironmonger that did little pieces for the whaling boats and things like that. It's now our captain's shed, which we call our bar. We were featured in Off Duty in Wall Street Journal back in June. This is a photo done by Reed McKendry, who is the photographer of this house. Kind of special. Again, here's just another little element. This is a contemporary Vaughan piece, a table. Believe it or not, it actually flat packs into a box when it ships. But it's just another element. It's faux and contemporary, but I love it. And it just adds a lot of extra element of design. I also want to point out these bar stools. So this is, again, an example. These are probably 20 years old. They came with me from another residence. They're just front gate, and I get more compliments and more questions about these chairs. They're just front gate, but again, it has that campaign design that I was going with, so I just had to take them with me. If these were for a client, they wouldn't work because they don't technically go under the apron, but that could be another project for my husband if we just take off the caps, and I can take that off and we can pop them down. And as you can see, my beloved dogs loved them from 20 years ago, and they were puppies. So, but I love them. They're super fun. Now we're going out to our little in-town backyard, which is petite, but we use every inch of it. We're huge entertainers, and this little area has multiple little seating areas. We use this house all year round. So in the summer, of course, it's beautiful and you can sit out and read a book. At night, this becomes a really great little cocktail area. October and November, this is where we do our shucking after scallop season. And we have these kind of sheep blankets and a little fire table comes out here. And this becomes a shucking area after scalloping with a few little beers. During Nantucket by design in the summer, we sometimes will cover this to make a case of rain. So we have little sailcloths that we actually have hooked up to the house so that we have the extension of the kitchen. This becomes almost like outdoor dining, just an extension. I'll often open these doors up completely so you have this indoor-outdoor effect that is important to entertaining. Every now and then we might have a little dinner outside or a little fun little lunch. Sometimes we work out here. I always have my umbrellas. But it's just a tiny little in-town garden, but we've tried to make it very special. Small amount of gardening. I'm not a huge gardener. You can see the condition of my roses. I'm not a great gardener, but I'm trying. But we do have a little bit of hydrangea and just a little pretty area. I should point out this building. This is original to the property. This was an ironmonger shed in the 1800s, and it was always here. We did change some of the stone and foundation, but this is the original building, original windows, it's all original. So what was an ironmonger shed, we have turned it into what we lovingly call our captain's bar. A lot of quarter boards on houses here, so I took the Walt Whitman, "Oh Captain, My Captain," and that's our quarter board here. Because of the 5 sea captains, I didn't want to just give it to one, so I've now reference all of them. This is the original ladder, actually, that went up to the Widow's Walk. We had to replace the Widow's Walk with something new and sturdier, so we salvaged that. My kids think I'm tacky for having these out, but these are scallop lights that we made left over after our shucking. We bleached the scallop shells and we made these fun little twinkle lights that I'll put on sometimes at night. And sometimes my husband and I, there's a TV in here, we'll watch Wimbledon or we'll sit here and have dinner, and we have a little date night here at our captain's bar with our campaign style chairs. But we use every inch of this backyard. It's tiny, but it's beloved. Now I can take you into our captain's shed. This was the original door, actually, too, which is kind of fun to see. Hopefully you'll get to see all the before pictures, but where I showed you the before and after is sort of the original building to where we added. This was a big 35-foot pit, to be honest, and I hope you do get to see the before pictures because this is all new. So come on into our little shed, our little bar. We kept the original windows, and as I said, this inside piece is also a piece of the original Widow's Walk ladder, so that serves as a little shelf for our bar. And we have a contemporary photograph of Kotu from a photographer here on island. And we turned this into just a cute little indoor bar. My kids spend a lot of time in here. Sometimes if friends of ours, their kids maybe live out in Sconset and they've missed the bus, this turns into an extra bedroom if we need it. But we love this little area. Again, leftover pieces of wood from our Widow's Walk. Collectibles. Maritime collectibles from Raphael again. My husband, his godparents would send him these pewter mugs with his initials on it, and those were a gift. He's a collector, so we have all his pewter mugs out here. My funny little stingray, again from all my trips to Paris. But these were all the floorboards here. We just painted them. This was really a train wreck in this space. We just gave it a fresh coat of paint. We did add, there were additional leftover doors that didn't fit anywhere that we used on the walls just to give a little texture. And again, to honor the fact that we were using every square inch of the renovation. Our little article I showed you inside, my husband had that framed. But just another, important little part of the architecture of the house. So now we're gonna go upstairs to the second floor. This is the landing that we created, again, part of the new wing. And as a designer, the world's your oyster to think about what you want to do. knowing this was very contemporary, I felt that this was a really important area to get right. My original plan was to add a wood and batten detail, which we do often. It's a cost-effective way of adding millwork to something contemporary like this, but I wanted it to have some more character. So I started looking at different murals, and of course I love all the Fromentels and Degournets, and Gracie in particular had an amazing maritime pattern, but it just wasn't in the budget. So then I found this is actually a digital mural that Schumacher does with a company in Istanbul called Excel. So technically this is the Bosphorus, but what we did was we decoupaged anything that looked like an Ottoman building. So it really just looks maritime and nautical. And as I said, it's digital, so it's more cost friendly because this hallway sees a lot of luggage and a lot of movement. The carpet is Roger Oates, which is a company in England, and Roger Oates, it hides the dirt with the dogs, but I also think it looks very nice, so I try to balance elegance with practicality. These are things that I literally just repurposed. This is a console table that I had from another home, same with a mirror, and I just kind of put it all together. Sometimes as a designer, it's just all the composition. This is sort of fun. This is from H&M Home Store, which I love, which was probably $10. And these are all gifts. This was a gift. We host Scallop Weekend, so my girlfriend Mary gave that. My office gave that to me for Christmas, which I love. We have Kristen Patton home candles after the scent of Shalimar, which I love, that we've had made up. Map in Nantucket. And every Nantucket home needs a cranberry rake. I'm sure you have seen those before. These are fun. These are from Amanda Lindroff in the Bahamas. We bring these outside at night when we're entertaining, just to add a little fun festive light. And I think that's it. This is actually contemporary floor. So we tried to match that to the original. This is from a company in New York City called PID. It's actually engineered flooring, but the color match was really great. So I love that. So now that we're on the second floor, this gives you a great opportunity to really see this Excel panel, which I think is super special and really makes the hallway. I had it done in a sepia print so that it really isn't color. It's just the tones of the house that I've used everywhere, and it kind of goes background. Nothing's jarring. It's a print that you could live with forever. And that's how I think of design a lot of times, because look, design's expensive, and interior design, you want to really think through how you're living, and I'm not going to be changing this every 10 years, so probably it'll fade, but with the windows, but I just think it's so special, and it really enhances this kind of really dull modern hallway. We have our great Vaughan light fixture, another, I love Vaughan, that just it seems to fit really well. A campaign chest I found at Raphael, good old Raphael. This is an antique Persian carpet from one of my resources in the design center. I love Stephen King, really beautiful. So now I'm going to take you to the very end of the hallway, to the master bedroom. We're going back to the original home. The second floor is original to the house, and I'm going to take you there next. And you're going to see the transition from this new floor to the old floor, and we're back to our 16-inch wood floorboards. So before we go into the bedroom, I think it's important to kind of see this space. When I bought the house, both of these doors went into this bedroom, and I had to make a decision, because when you get in the room, you'll see. I ended up closing this door in the hallway and had this become the main door into the room. But you can see the sloped floor. This is because of the chimney mast, the mast that we saw downstairs. This is all part of that chimney mast, and you can see the buckling of the floors. Not everyone would be okay with that, but we were. It's part of the charm of an old historic home. So now let's go into my bedroom. Tuck your head again. This is the original door. All original, and we painted. This room actually has a lean-to, which you probably can feel when you walk in. All the boards are slanted, and there's a lean-to towards Orange Street. I ended up deciding to make this a closet. So these are two closets with built-ins, because that could hide the lean-to issue, because there's actually 6 inches. If you see the baseboard, it's all crooked. So I made the top of the built-in all symmetrical, or as symmetrical as you can in an old house. You see a little bit of sag. And then this is where we hid the 6 inch, because not everyone can notice this. So all the built-ins are here. And then this house is in the National Register, and I saw an old picture of it, and there was a canopy bed in the picture. So I just thought, I'm gonna put a canopy bed back in this room, but there's actually a window behind my bed, and I have a thing with symmetry. So I really wanted to be able to walk into the room and have this sort of symmetrical elevation. So we hid the window, we did these canopies with Fine Lines, my workroom in Boston, and we found this great trim with just really an inexpensive linen. And so we brought back the canopy into this room. Here you see, again, my woofers, my friend Erica, another one of my pups. Little artwork I got at Clean Core. That's of the Venetian Biennale, which I love. This is an old desk from my home store with the matching Biedermeier chair that we had downstairs. I actually thought when I was in design school I wanted to be a renderer. So I was a very much a follower of Jeremiah Goodman, who was a famous interior renderer in the interior design world. So I have 2 of those watercolors. This is of Carlos Dubesky's dining room. He was a very famous entertainer. And this is actually Rose Cummings, her New York City salon. So I think those are super special. And it's just a very simple bedroom. The beams in here, I didn't spend the money to take the original wood back, so I've left these painted. So the whole room is kind of painted one color because it's a bit of a muddle. You know, it's a small room. It has very low ceilings. So we just kept it sort of simple. In a lot of Nantucket homes, the rooms are adjoining and they don't have separate hallways. So what I decided to do is turn this into a bathroom. It was a small bedroom when we originally bought the house, as these are the 2 original parts of the second floor of this home. And I got permission to add that window, which is brand new. HTC gave me permission. And this became my little master suite. So I have the master bathroom right off my bedroom. And again, we just tried to keep the same gray historic colors to keep it calm and not make this some crazy bathroom. And it's just really simple. My do-it-yourself shade. Great tassel when we were in Asia. Erica Scully gifted me this, one of her beautiful renderings that I love. She did this. She's the Nantucket Art Association artist. Shaker boxes that we collect. I love a good box collection. And my girlfriend Fleur that downstairs did the needlepoint also did this for me for my birthday, which is very, very special. And this beautiful rug. It's another one of these Persian rugs that are just small, hard to find these kind of small rugs, but it kind of had the right colors and it worked. The vanity is just a very, very simple apothecary style vanity that I had custom made through Palmer Industry in Rhode Island. And then we just did a very simple honed stone top. I love Waterworks fixtures. They're classical and elegant. And I had this one made with black handles just for a little something extra. Big, huge mirror. Just keep it serene. You know, I don't think bathrooms in Nantucket should be full of fancy marble. I just wanted it to be kind of quiet and simple, and apothecary definitely would work with an older home like this. And then of course baskets for overflow from Waterworks. All shaker style, very simple, all painted and simple. Home is such an important place to me. I love having my kids home. I love to entertain. There's no place I like better. It's just great being here. We create memories, and now that my children are older, when they're here, it's so special. And it's just really important, not just an interior designer, but just to my family. And we feel very lucky to have this legacy on Nantucket. Homeworthy, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you. It's time for me to get back to work, but thank you for this opportunity and hope to see you another time in another project or another home. Safe travels.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Angela and welcome to my home in Texas. Come on in, I'm excited to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
My name is Angela Geyer, and we are currently in my home in Houston, Texas. So we've lived in this home for around 4.5 years, and funny story, I did not see the house before we moved in. It was completely up to my husband to house hunt and find this home. We were actually living in Mississippi at the time. He started working in Houston. I had just had a baby and was not ready to house hunt. So I entrusted him to find us a home just close to his work. And that's how we ended up here. And I joke that the next house is all my decision. So welcome to our entry. Well, faux entry. Our home lacks a formal entry. So I decided to create one myself by filling it with the things that I think represent our family and our style the most, which is a lot of chintz. My favorite Lijofa chintz, Althea, which I had made in a table skirt, and some Brunswick fee, fun little fringe, because everything is more fun with fringe. Just mixing old and new is one of my favorite things to do. So adding coffee table books with some antique rose medallions and this new piece from Alexis Walters, which I still have to get framed, but she's one of my favorite artists. And these are my favorite colors. So just love that it represents us. And it's the first thing you see first thing guests see when they walk into our home. So welcome to our formal living room. This is a space that I have enjoyed decorating the most because, as much as I hate to admit it, it is a place that is kind of a kid-free zone. Like, they're allowed in here, but please don't bring the goldfish and please don't bring the trucks. But I've combined all of my favorite things into one space, like a little chintz, a little chinoiserie, a little drama, a little animal print, which is, you know, a little bit more fun than what I would do in more of a family-friendly zone. So, as I said, we lack a formal entry, but this is also one of the first things that guests see when they walk in. So I found this beautiful mirror in an antique store here in Houston, beautiful blue and white, which I am obsessed with, and my favorite color lamp. And then I've combined all of my favorite things in this one place. I found this Henredon coffee table on Cherish, which I love shopping. You just find so many beautiful antiques there. And actually, the first thing I purchased for this home was this beautiful Gracie panel wallpaper panel that I had mounted and framed. And what I love about mounting and framing a wallpaper panel is that you can bring it with you wherever you go next. And that was my thought in mind, because I love the idea of, you know, beautiful chinoiserie, hand-painted wallpaper, but we knew we weren't going to be here forever. So I just love the idea of taking that with us wherever we go. Another one of my favorite things to do is mixing patterns. And I've combined, again, one of my favorite chintzes, Lijofa Althea, with some beautiful other patterns. And what makes it so unique is that you can find a fabric you love and that you've seen everywhere, but then combined with different prints and patterns mixed together, it's just so fresh and so unique. And that's one of my favorite things to do with patterns. I absolutely love this Coromandel screen. I was faced with the tough decision of what to do with this blank and boring wall behind this sofa. And I found this at an antique store and fell in love with it and knew I needed to have it for our home. And it adds such a dramatic feel in here, and I truly love that. Another one of my favorite pieces that I found is this gorgeous chinoiserie planter. I was actually forbidden from buying a real plant ever again, but I purchased this because we're having company over and I just love it. I mean, I can't keep them alive, but it's just so beautiful. You need something live and real in your home at all times, in my opinion. Something that is truly speaks to me, but is more so my mother, and I guess that I got it from her, is this tiger print. This was an old bench that I found and we had reupholstered, and it's just fun and dramatic, and I just love the pattern play in here. It's just so great. Another one of my favorite things to do is to buy lamps and then have them zhuzhed up with some fun pleated lampshades. And this pleat was actually the fabric in our primary bedroom that we reused to have made for this fun little lampshade. And this has just become a really cozy space for us. And one of the newest additions to this space, which is one of my favorite pieces of all time, is this commode, but she's a commode with a secret. She turns into a secretary's desk. So I just thought that was so fun. And this is where I store all of my placemats and all of my tablecloths that I love to use for our dining room tables. So I just thought that was really fun. So next we'll move into the dining room. This home was built in the late 80s and 90s. So it has a lot of those details and lacks a lot of the character and charm that I love from the 20s and, you know, the beautiful arches and the moldings. So because we know we're not staying here for a long period of time, instead of redoing the whole house, we've just tried to fill it with things that bring us a lot of joy and beautiful furniture and wallpaper and things that were less permanent. And we've truly loved the way it's turned out so far. So welcome to our dining room. I love this space because we've truly transformed it with this beautiful wallpaper. Most of the things in here, to be honest, are either antique or vintage finds. This table was an antique, and these chairs were actually antique finds that we had painted and reupholstered in a beautiful cravat fabric. The wallpaper is truly unique and special, and truly makes our home so special and unique because this color was actually customized based on a paint sample that I sent to Waterhouse Wall Hangings. I fell in love with this beautiful fabric on our chairs, wanted it to match because I'm sort of a maximalist, and they were able to customize this based on the fabric. And I love it so much and definitely want to recreate this wherever we go next. But I have to say that my favorite piece in the whole entire house, and this room of course, is this antique set that my father gave my mother for an anniversary. And I had loved it so much in my mother's home, and I kept repeating it every time I'd go home. And eventually she was like, Angela, you can have it. So I remember at Christmas dinner one year, she said that, and I ran upstairs, got my suitcase, went downstairs with my suitcase, packed it up so fast in case she changed her mind. And I mean, that was kind of a faux pas at Christmas dinner, but I loved it so much, and I truly believe she gave it to me because she was sick of polishing it, but her loss is my gain, and it is truly a reminder of my mom and my dad and the antiques that she loves and the character and charm that they bring to their home that I want in my own home. And it reminds me of her, so I just love that. Also a beautiful antique find, same with the mirror, and this is a new visual comfort chandelier. And I have to say, setting tables is one of my favorite things to do. I truly love it. Just, you know, whether it's for Sunday brunch, Sunday dinner, or just hosting people at home. And I do love creating floral arrangements. But the floral shop here in Houston, the floral studio here in Houston, created these beautiful florals for me because we're actually hosting a dinner for a friend's birthday tonight, and they did such an amazing job. But I love this room. If I could describe my dream dining room, this would be it. It is truly a blue and white chinoiserie dream, and I think I fit in quite well here. This is china I actually found at an antique store somewhere in Texas. I don't remember where I was. I love it so much. I paired it with our monogrammed napkins that I use quite often, and just some beautiful placemats that I love to collect. I am obsessed with all things tableware, placemats and tablescapes and tablecloths. They just bring me so much joy to set a table that's so unique because you can really speak to your personality when you set a table. And then you entertain other people here, and it just shows your personality. So I just love that. I've decorated my house in, I'd like to say, a more traditional style. I love mixing new pieces with antiques and reupholstering old pieces to give them new life. I love color, so I definitely think it's more traditional than any other style, but with a twist. I do love to incorporate some new pieces with old pieces to, you know, show my personality a little. I do fancy myself a little chintz, actually a lot of chintz. I'm so grateful that I have a husband that fully embraces it, but chintz is one of my favorite. I am a sucker for a good floral. I love pattern mixing. I love mixing colors together to create something that's different and fun. Let's move into the family room. So this is our family room, and this is where we spend majority of our time, because even though we have a playroom, my children insist on being close to me at all times. But when designing this room, I knew I needed to be family friendly, so I chose a lot of performance fabrics. So everything from the sofa to the carpet to the chair was chosen with family in mind. So this is a fun chair. It was an old chair that I found that I had reupholstered in a cravat performance fabric, but of course, everything is better with fringe. So I had the Samuel & Sons fringe made, and it says, you know, I'm kind of a fun mom. These chairs I love, and these colors usually are not what I would gravitate toward, but I found this fabric. Meredith Ellis used this fabric in a Kip Space Show house in Dallas a few years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a Lisa Fine fabric, and I knew I needed to have it. So I had these old benches reupholstered and some coordinating pillows made with it. Not to say that this is the most family-friendly coffee table, but I love it, and my kids are old enough to not, you know, bump their heads and all of that stuff. I know I've said that this house was built in the 80s or 90s, so it has some quirks to it that we weren't very keen on, you know, redoing because we're not staying here for long. And one of those quirks is the fact that this cabinet here used to store the TV because they were just smaller, you know, back in the 80s and 90s. And not knowing what to do with it and not wanting to replace, I made it my little secret bar, which I think is fun. It's my little tequila bar because I do love myself some tequila. So just a little spot, and of course everyone needs a bar in their family room. I mean, who doesn't? But yes, I just love this space and how it's turned out. Another one of my favorite little things is to, you know, add some fun lampshades to just regular lamps. And yes, filling my bookshelves with things that are old and new. I love bookshelf styling. I think it's always so fun to see how people style their bookshelves. It really speaks to their personality. I love myself some chinoiserie and rose medallions and coffee table books. I'd say my tips for bookshelf styling is to always mix new and old. Always use coffee table books, but mix them vertically, horizontally. Then fill it in with things that you love the most. And for me, that's a lot of blue and white and chinoiserie and plates and decorative things. Family pictures, things that speak to you, especially when you're in a family room and you want it to, you know, reflect your style and reflect your personality and yourself as a family. Things like family pictures or things that you've collected along when you travel, things that are important to you, there's always a spot for them on your bookshelves. So when designing a space for your family, you also have to consider the fact that not only your family will be here, but multiple people will be here and at once. And if you don't want to sit next to each other all the time, then having multiple different sections of seating is one of my favorite things to do. I don't particularly love sectional sofas, so creating little sections of seating was the ideal choice for us. We started with a sofa that fit the space well. We have 2 additional seating pieces right here, and then a comfy space that if someone wants to read, they can come here too, along with benches for additional seating if anyone needed it, or just to put their foot up. But there's plenty of seating options for everyone here for what they're doing and all the things that we do in here, which is crafts and all the fun stuff when you have children. One of my favorite things to do is to light candles when I'm home. I just love filling my house with scents that just bring me a lot of happiness. And my favorite for this time of year is Thyme's simmered cider. And it is so good. It smells like fall, but it's also so good all year round. So I have 2 young children, ages 4 and 6. And while I was decorating this home, of course, I had to consider their ages in mind. So a lot of the things that we've chosen for our home are family-friendly, performance fabrics, things like that, or darker colors that will hide the stains, and performance-friendly sofas and rugs and things like that. But I do have to say that I was grateful that this home did come with a formal living room, because as much as I love my children, this is the one room we are not allowed to roll Tonka trucks up and down and color and paint. And so I do have my little space despite everything else being very family friendly. I have made this space uniquely mine by truly taking my time and finding things that I love. I made the mistake in my old home of just buying things to buy it to get it furnished. And I ended up with a home I did not like and things I didn't like. So I learned my lesson the hard way. And with this house, I've truly taken my time to find things that I truly love, want to be in this house or my next house forever by finding classic pieces and reupholstering them in fabric that I love and that bring me joy that I can see myself loving 20 years down the road. So here we are in our kitchen, our little breakfast nook, and one of my favorite things about this home is how it opens up, the kitchen opens up to our family space, because it truly allows that semi-open concept that I love while still having everything a little bit separate, which I love in the more traditional sense. This is where we have all of our meals as a family with our children. One of my favorite things to do is on Sundays, we set a fun little brunch table. So this is just a little representation. I love a beautiful tablecloth with beautiful florals, and these are from the Floral Studio. And we haven't renovated our kitchen because we knew we were going to stay here for a long time. So I've just kind of filled everything with blue and white plates in hopes that it disguises things. But the funny story about this plate wall is that I actually created this to hide one quirky feature of our home, which is a light switch right there. And that's how it all started. And I've just kind of built it, and it keeps on going. And I just love that. But the chairs were upholstered in a performance fabric, and we just love spending our time in here. It's just so bright and just so cozy. I am sadly the chef in our household. I'm not very good, nor do I enjoy cooking. And our kitchen makes it difficult to cook in, to be honest. But I'd like to think that one day I will perfect my cooking skills. Today is not that day, but maybe in a few years. So when I went to college and was forced to decide on a major, I truly had no idea what I wanted to do. I had always loved interior design, and in fact, one of my favorite parts about college was decorating my dorm room. But I settled on a communications degree, and then after college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and in a true Elle Woods moment, I said, why not law school? Or my parents actually said, why not law school? So I went to law school, graduated with law at a school in Chicago, and passed the bar in Mississippi. And I decided to stay home with my son at the time, not knowing anyone there. And so once we moved to Houston and COVID happened, I started decorating my own home and found it so much fun and knew that my passion was interior design. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am. So this is our little bar area. It's off the kitchen and off the dining room, but conveniently located by the laundry room because we all need a drink when we're doing laundry. One of my favorite things to collect is colored glassware, just making it fun for guests, but it's also fun to display all of these cool colors in here. These are actually a combination of antiques or just old pieces and new pieces. I love these so much. These were found in Round Top. These were found at an estate sale, I believe, and the rest are just new. I have mixed some of my fun cabbageware, which I love to collect, and just some beautiful things. I also have an addiction with cocktail napkins. This is my drawer, which I'm slowly organizing, but it has all of my cocktail napkins that I've collected and had monogrammed, and there will be some more soon. But yes, right next to our bar is our laundry room. In my mind, I spent like 99% of my time in here. It is a small space, so to make it a little bit more bearable, we had it wallpapered in this gorgeous Schumacher blue and white chinoiserie wallpaper, and it makes doing laundry a little bit more bearable. The cabinets were actually painted when we moved in. It just so happened that the wallpaper I loved matched it perfectly, so we didn't have to do much in that respect. What I love most about this home is that we have created a home that just works for our family and that just speaks to us and shows our personality and just represents us as a whole. I think a home comes alive when people fill it with things that truly represent themselves and their personality and the things that bring them the most joy. And that's different for everyone. And that's what makes homes so unique and that's what makes it tell a story. So next, let's head into our primary bedroom. But first, here's this little hallway that leads to our primary bedroom that I wanted to dress up because you see it from the rest of our living spaces. So we had another beautiful Gracie panel that I had mounted and framed, and I love it so much because, of course, we can take it with us wherever we go. Welcome to our primary bedroom. I think it's safe to say that one of my favorite color combinations is blue and white. So I knew I needed that in our primary bedroom. It's just such a soothing and classic and timeless color combination, even though my first choice was a colorful floral that my husband vetoed pretty quickly. But I fell in love with the Schumacher Versailles fabric and knew I needed to use it everywhere in this bedroom. So we had this old headboard painted and reupholstered with some coordinating pillows, and of course, every woman needs a skirted vanity, so I had a skirted vanity made in this same fabric as well. This bench right here is one of my favorite finds. It was found at an estate sale here that I also had reupholstered in another gorgeous Schumacher blue and white print because we are fully embracing the blue and white in this room. And same with this chair. I am a huge fan of finding old pieces and reupholstering them, but this chair is the exception. I found it here at an antique store here in Houston and absolutely fell in love with the bows and the floral bouquets. I mean, if there was a print that spoke to me more than this, I don't think there was one. It is just stunning. And this is my little oasis away from the children, away from the husbands. It is my skirted vanity in the matching Versailles fabric that I love so much. It's with my beautiful little bow antique mirror that I found recently at an antique store here in Houston. And same with this Schumacher Versailles pleated lampshade just to top it all off with the blue and white in here. I have many favorite chintzes and they're all very floral. My favorite chintz is Lee Joffe Althea. You'll see it throughout the house in many different rooms. I also love Lee Joffe Floral Bouquet. I was dying to use it in my master bedroom, my primary bedroom, but my husband vetoed that pretty quickly. It's Mario Boatta's favorite chintz too. It's very pink, very floral, very girly. I truly love it. I will find a spot for it somewhere in this home, but I love myself some florals. They're just so fun. They're just so great, and you can mix them with anything, and that's what makes it so unique and fun. So now let's head upstairs to the rest of the bedrooms. Welcome to our catch-all space, which I have slowly decided to make it into our playroom, because as much as I love my children bothering me downstairs all the time, I think it's time that they have their own space. So this is a new work in progress that we have slowly made into the playroom. Just some fun features in here, like these fun Sister Parish pillows with the Schumacher trim and these casual linen drapes. These benches I found at an estate sale and had them reupholstered in another fun Sister Parish fabric with some Samuel and Sons fringe, and just love the little scallop details and the cute little pendants. But my favorite thing in here is the treadmill that I asked for 3 years ago for my birthday, and that's still not plugged in. Makes a really cute addition to this playroom, don't you think? But yes, these built-ins were here when we moved in, so we fully embraced the red, white, and blue theme. I love the theme, and I love that color palette for a gender-neutral playroom or a gender-neutral nursery. And we just, you know, add some fun little finishing touches in here, like the baseballs that we've caught at games and just family pictures and things like that. So it's a work in progress in here, but I'm loving the way it's turning out, and hopefully my kids will migrate up here when they want to play. So I'm very grateful to have a husband that is completely on board with my style. He trusts me completely, and mostly because he knows that he doesn't have a sense of style. No, I'm just kidding, but he does trust me, and I love that about him. Also, my other model is to do it and then ask for forgiveness later. You know, it's already been done. But no, he truly loves it, and he's loved the way this home has turned out. So I'm forever grateful for that. So right off the playroom, we have our son's room. And I love this space because when we moved into this home, he was still in a crib and it was a nursery. So we had free creative liberty in what we wanted to do for his big boy room. And of course he wanted a monster truck room, but we settled on his favorite colors, which was blue and green, which happen to be two of my favorite colors as well. So we just love how it's so cozy, and it really truly brings him a lot of joy to be in here, which makes me happy. We did this beautiful Sister Parish fabric, which is just so fun and playful, with pillows and the bench cushion here. And of course, every lampshade needs something fun. So we did these beautiful green and white Vermoy lampshades there. And one of my favorite things about his room is this fun antique table that turns into a game table. I thought that was really cool. Eventually, maybe he'll do some homework in here, who knows? But these were also found at antique stores here in Houston. Same with those. So love mixing old and new. And I mean, I wouldn't be smart if I put a super expensive lamp in here. So this is a very inexpensive lamp base with a beautiful lampshade with Brunswick Effise fabric. I just love that so much. And I don't love a themey room, but sailboats have a super special meaning to me. I grew up on the water in my family's home, and I just love that for a little boy. I just love that theme. So we have a lot of sailboats in here for him. And of course, we have to pay tribute to his design style, which is lots of stickers on the wall. So gotta love it. So because my husband picked out this home, I gave him a 5-year deadline. That was, we were gonna stay in this house for 5 years and then find something that we could both agree upon in a neighborhood we liked, because we wanted to explore Houston more. You know, we moved here not knowing anything about Houston. So we're looking now. It's just been incredibly difficult. And my husband isn't too keen on the idea of a fixer-upper, but the more we look at homes, the more that I think that's the path we need to choose, because I have a very particular taste and very particular style. So I just want to do something that I pick out and represents my style, and that probably is a fixer-upper. Welcome to my daughter's room, and she is 4 but acts like 16, so we needed a space that kind of fit her personality, but it was a little bit more sophisticated. One of my favorite pieces in her room that was actually from her nursery was this canopy that we had made in a vintage chintz, of course, made from Brunswick Effise, and I love it so much. And when deciding what to do with her big girl bed, we knew we needed to find something that coordinated well with this pattern, because I will keep it forever. And we settled on this beautiful Schumacher print, and I love it. And of course, some beautiful ruffles, because she's a girl and she loves her fancy frills and all of that fun stuff. But to make this room a little bit more funky like she is, we added this Stray Dog Designs chandelier here. And of course, just like I do, she has a skirted vanity in this stunning, beautiful vintage bow fabric, which I love so much. We have transformed this little nursery into a place that's still a work in progress, but she loves being in here, loves all of her books, and the pink and green, which are her favorite colors, and we love the way it's turned out so far. So for her bookshelves, like most of our bookshelves, we mixed a little bit of old and new. This was her sweet first birthday hat with her monogram and little bow, and these two are cute little antique pieces. Same with the little silver that was from my childhood, and we just mixed it with a bunch of fun new books that are her favorite, with some little ruffled, scalloped, and beautiful little wicker baskets. Another one of my favorite pieces in this house, because I love cabbageware and antiques and vintage finds, is this adorable little cabbageware tea set that I found for her room. And she just has so much fun playing with it. It's really, really sweet, and I just love it. Pink and green, of course. I think who inspires me the most is Mario Buada, who of course is the Prince of Chintz, and my mother, who I have learned so much from, and who I have tried to emulate my home based on the home that we grew up in. It was very traditional, very much so the style that I have now. She filled our home with antiques and was always at estate sales and antique stores. And just every piece had a story. The room that I grew up in was a pink and green toile. And then I moved into my sister's room, which was a blue and yellow toile. She used a lot of florals and a lot of traditional elements that I love to incorporate in my own home. This is our guest room, and what I love about it is we were able to create this room from scratch, because believe it or not, this room was once purple. And so when I wanted to design the space, I wanted somewhere that our guests could feel comfortable and cozy, and just the vibe we wanted was like a French countryside hotel or an English countryside hotel. So I knew I wanted like a floral chintz, but not something overdone. So I found this Pierre Frey Gruz fabric and knew I needed to use it. And it's not colors I would typically gravitate towards. So I was expanding out of my blues and greens and pinks. But I love it so much. We had the headboard reupholstered with some matching pillows with some fun fringe, and this Schumacher check, which we also had a beautiful skirted table because every room needs a skirted table. Designing these bookshelves, which were here, was the ultimate challenge because how do you fill a space this big? But I was able to do it with a lot of estate sale finds, old books, and some also new blue and white pieces. But my favorite part is that I was actually able to get good use out of my law school books because I was able to use them in my bookshelf styling. So my parents are very proud of me. Another one of my favorite pieces in here, which is a new addition, is this beautiful secretary's desk. And I love, love, love the boat detailing on that as well. And funny story about this armoire is that someone in my neighborhood was giving it away for free. And I just cannot believe it because they posted it like 2 days after I found this gorgeous bow secretary's desk at an estate sale or an antique store. And it has another beautiful bow detailing, and I just love it so much. So it truly makes the room feel so cozy and has that vintage vibe that I was looking for so much in this room. The word home is somewhere that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable in, and the place that truly represents your own style and your own personality.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to my home in Hingham. I'm Robin. Please come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Robin Pelissier. I'm an interior designer, and I'm based here in Hingham, Massachusetts. Welcome to my home. We bought our home a little less than 8 years ago. We were super attracted to this because it's an antique cape, which I love, but it's also flooded with sunlight when we looked at it. Super charming. It has that very quintessential cape-like front and side, and then we put on a more contemporary addition on the back. So when we bought the cape, the thing that was so charming to me was that it all felt very bright and white and light, and I really felt that at this time of my life, I work a lot with color and with mixed patterns and fabrics. I really yearned for something that felt sort of Cape Cod-ish or Nantucket-y. My husband, when he saw this house that I was interested, nearly collapsed because it was not as updated as it is now. And I would say I've kept my decorating palette fairly neutral, blues and whites and greens and a lot of solid that I think has sort of surprised people when they've come in because they're used to seeing me a little bit more rambunctious with color and pattern. But this just felt right, a little bit of antiques mixed with more modern, more contemporary for our style of living. This particular cape was built in 1801, and it's one of the original capes in this area. The name of this house is Crocker Wilder, and Crocker Wilder had two sons, Crocker and Alden, I believe, and they made bucket baskets, right across the street from us. This is back in the 1800s, maybe 1900, early 1900s. They're still collector's items even today. There's a lot of history about them, and there's a lot of value to have one of these. It's a CA bucket, and you see you see pictures of it around Hingham. Walking into like the South Shore Country Club will have a picture of the CA bucket. So those two boys were raised here in this house. Welcome to the living room. This is a room that in the winter, in the fall, in the spring gets a lot of use because of this great fireplace that came with the house. This originally was the heating source for the house, but it's such a cozy room. We entertain in here, we sit in here and hang out. It's definitely the Sunday newspaper room, and I love it because of all the light, but it's got a lot of warmth, as you can see, and it's all the fabrics that I use are indoor, outdoor. So although I do have a lot of creamy white fabrics in the home, they are they're really resistant to wine spills, coffee spills, things like that. They really just wipe right up. And I have a dog too, so it's really resilient to all of those things. I love sisal carpeting, and I use it a lot in clients' homes, but I love the natural texture of the sisal. We bound it in this chocolate leather to kind of ground it a little bit in this space. And this piece of art over here is by an artist by the name of Val Schaff. And she came to our shop one day and introduced herself. And when I started looking at her photography, I was completely in love. And the 4 sheep reminded me of my 4 sons. They haven't been that happy about the analogy, but this one photograph looks fantastic in every room. And I think because there's so much white and light and bright in the house, that this is such a sort of subdued, lots of browns and dark colors and sepia toned piece of art, that it looks really gorgeous in every room. I just could not decide where to put that. This sort of section of the living room, which transitions between the kitchen area, dining area, and the living room, is sort of a nice pass-through, a nice little respite between these rooms. And I found this low cabinet that just is sort of seamless and helps ground this space, and made for a great area to add one more vignette, a lamp. I love these from Moy Shades. We use them a lot. I love tramp art. This is not an original tramp art mirror, but it just had that feel of it, and I love the shape and the color of it. And I love little whimsical touches, like this piece that I found in an adorable little shop in downtown Hingham. So the living room just has a lot of fun elements, little places for extra seating. I can pull out benches or stools or an additional chair when people come in. Welcome to my kitchen. This is the heart of the home, literally the heart, the pulse, the soul. And this is the room where a lot of activity takes place. I love to cook. I have this great Thermidor 6-burner stove, which I love, and a lot of very solid surfaces that make this kitchen very easy to cook in and entertain in. This island top has become a stage for many, many people in my home, including my 4 sons. In fact, we have I know when the danger is about to begin when this microphone comes out, and up on the island they go. It can be 1 or 4 people. They know how to avoid the antique lanterns. So that is one really fun part of when the party starts. That's a good indication. I love the light that this kitchen has. We get it, as you can see, flanking both sides of the room. This kitchen, because there's so much white in it, I really wanted to get that balance of the dark and light and make it feel very sort of weighty and balanced, but comfortable. And we have these leather chairs. I've probably had 4 different sets of bar stools in here. I've had small Italian ones that go up and down. I have had fabric bar stools. This is all in 8 years. And I finally ended up with these leather bar stools because they're so comfortable. And because for the most part, it's my husband and I having dinner here. This is really very loungy when we sit here and take our woven chargers out and put the the candles on and have the TV on. It's really it's a very warm and cozy place for the two of us to have dinner. Usually this kitchen has crazy, I mean, I took them down for now, but this is usually what is on every cabinet in my house. I have 3 little girl nieces. They are always coloring when they're here. It's that type of kitchen too. It's very child friendly, and they get up on the island and they always ask me where their markers are, and their artwork is a lot of the decorating in my house usually. But I love the sort of combination of the dark and the light. We carry these really cute bulls, I think they are, in our shop. And then I had a decorative artist. I didn't feel like they gave enough, quite the dimension I was looking for. So I had a decorative painter do the little shield around them to make it look like they're actually hanging on a plaque. But I think they add a little bit of whimsy, but also a little bit of architectural interest, which I think is fun. These plates we got when we were traveling. We went to a little antique place in Italy and found these adorable plates here. I ended up actually, my niece who lives in London loved them so much, and I had 3 that I had not unwrapped. So she went home her last trip with the 3 other plates that go with this. But I am a big plate fan. You'll see in some of the rooms, I really love using plates in my design. Even here, this is a door that goes out to the patio, and I love Majolica and things that just give a room a little bit of dimension and symmetry and feels like a little bit of a collection. The thing I really love about this kitchen is for an antique cape, the ceilings are really high. They have a beautiful height. They're at least 8 feet in the original part of the cape. It's a massive vaulted ceiling, which we love. If I could do one thing differently in here, I would have maybe added some beams or clad it in wood or covered it in something, because when there are a lot of people in the kitchen, because of the girth and the height of the volume of the ceiling, it can get kind of loud in here. But other than that, we love it. When we bought this almost 8 years ago, we put this pantry in. I've had one in every house, and it's always been put to very good use. So it's great for the extra storage. We have a wine refrigerator here. And then I'm very often charging these lights that are wonderful at night. I have a lot of them, but they're great at night to put on the island and make it feel almost like you're dining in a restaurant or sitting at a bar in a restaurant. It just gives it a very special candlelit feel. The nice thing too about this room is this is all part of the space. It's all one big space. So usually my husband and I eat at the counter here, and we watch a little TV sometimes, but this is when we have small dinner parties, our family, which is large. This table just opens to accommodate 14 people very easily, because we do have the built-in banquette, and it's just a very easy room for everybody to kind of hang out. My almost 98-year-old mother comes over, and she loves this chair, the swivel chair, which are both here. This is a big hangout for me at night when I come home, get the paper, have a glass of wine, sit in my swivel chair, and hopefully my husband's cooking. I have 3 little nieces under the age of 9, and since I have 4 boys, having 3 little girls here is the delight of my life. And I'll have the table all set with napkins and 2 glasses and the salad fork and the soup spoon, and thinking that they might sit at a little table over here, but they all grab the banquette. Everybody loves to sit at the banquette, and they jump up and down and they pull at the blinds, and it's always very, very festive. And this table, which is from Design Within Reach, is a little bit more of a contemporary table than I would have probably done, but it was in my last house and I wanted to continue to use it. It's simply decorated, but it's a great palette for us to really build upon when we're doing fun things in here. Welcome into our second living room, or what I call the girls' room. And in here, I've got some more probably feminine touches, I would say, with floral, Schumacher fabric, and I love this sunny color on the walls. In the evening, when the sun is starting to set, this room glows like it's on fire. It is so gorgeous. And as you can see, I have a lot of older pieces in here that I've combined with newer pieces. This sofa we bought when we first got married and bought our first house. And it is by, I think, Louis Mittman. And it has been the best, most comfortable sofa I've ever owned. So people, friends of mine that have known me for that long have said, why do you still have that sofa? Why don't you get it recovered? But there's something about it that it's not just nostalgic. It really is so beautifully made that it's hard to part with. This secretary over here belonged to my mom. It's not an antique piece, but it's an old piece. And I just love the way it works in this bright room with all this upholstery. I use it to write thank you notes. And it just adds a little height, adds a little seriousness, and it's just a great piece. Sometimes we have the doors open in it, sometimes we light it from within, and I love having anything of my family's here. These two paintings, 1 and 2, and there was a third, which was orange, my husband and I bought in Paris. And the artist's name is Jackson, but we just love the colors of these pieces of work. And it just feels like a bright and happy room. Like I say, we sit in here with the girls and everybody, we pull up. Like I said, I love little extra stools. Every chair has to have a little table next to it so people aren't reaching for a drink or a book. I love that things can be easily accessible here. And people, girls and boys, I'm sure too, love sitting in this room. I love animal print in any iteration. I love it. I love it in wall covering. I love it in rugs. I love it in fabrics. So I thought, to me, there's not a room that can't use a little bit of animal print. So I just found these antique stools and thought that anytime I see a pair of something, I think, those are so good. And I buy them, whether it's at an auction or it's overseas or it's at a antique shop. If they're in a pair like this and they have a great shape to them, I love to reupholster them and have that set of 2 because I can always find a place for them in someone's home. A set of stools just can work virtually anywhere. So that's, the animal print is really a big favorite of mine. And as you can see, this is a different animal print than the books. I found these down in Palm Beach, these books, this set of animal print binding books. And I thought, they're so fabulous. And I didn't even know if they were for sale. And she said she would sell them. But again, you can see I like adding elements of it to rooms where a client might say, does that match or does that go? And, to me, it's a neutral. It works with everything. This gold leaf clock I bought on Charles Street in Boston. Probably 20 years ago. Charles Street used to just be all beautiful antique shops. And I bought it there, and I remember in our first home when I started using a drill, much to my husband's dismay, He was away, and I tried to hang that in our living room, and the drill kept going through the wall, and I ended up with like a massive hole in another historic home, all in the effort to hang that clock. But we did get it hung. It did have a huge hole behind it, but it's been with me a long time, and I love the gold gilding on it. As a matter of fact, one of the girls in my office, Danielle, there were a few pieces that were a little bit cracked, and she is very masterful in doing little repair things, and she got some gold leaf paint and actually filled in where there were cracks. So that's meaningful to me too. And when I look at it, I think of Danielle and the big hole in my wall in my old house. I'm an interior designer. I've had my design firm, Robin Pelissier Design, for over 30 years. I work with a small group of women. We do high-end residential interior design. We're mostly in New England, but we have done jobs in Florida and New York, and we have a small boutique and shop, which is where our studio is in downtown Hingham. This is our TV room, which is a little bit more staid, a little quieter. It is really where my boys, when they're home, love to hang out. We have this big screen TV. My husband loves watching anything sports on here. Particularly Patrick Mahomes did so well last night. But it's great, it's loungy. I have a lot of my mom's paintings in this room. She is a well-known painter at the tender age of almost 98. And so I love rotating her artwork in the house, depending on the season, my mood. This is an antique Haris rug that just the oranges and reds, the colors of it really add so much warmth to this room. We have a raffia wall covering on the walls. I really wanted this room to feel kind of Ralph Lauren, who I love. And so it has this beautiful antique chest and then just newer items in it. And we have this gas fireplace. I should have turned it on for you, but it's really super easy to use. When we bought this house, the brick, it was all blocked up. So we had all the brick taken out of it and then had these gas logs put in. So you can see it's just really warm and feels very cozy in the cold weather. This is a piece my husband and I bought in Provence. And actually, we need Danielle to do a little more gold leafing on it. But I love it. It's people think it looks like me, but I'm very insulted when they say that. But I love the feeling of it and the antiquity of it. These window cover, I love this fabric. It's a little bit old world to me, but it's still kind of got the Americana red, white, and blue in it, which I love. They are from Schumacher. We use a lot of their fabrics, and I love them. We use the shutters a lot too. All these windows in the men's room that the ladies are have these great antique shutters that were with the home when we bought it. So it's nice to be able to have a little versatility when it comes to using the window treatments. This chair, we didn't have this chair in the room originally, but I was up at Home Goods one afternoon and I saw this and I thought that's the perfect color green for this room. And I love the fact that it's swiveled. And I knew this corner of the room just felt like it needed a little something. So I bought it. This is my Home Goods find. And I have been very proud of it. In fact, people will come in and say, is that chair new? Or did you? I'm like, this is my Home Goods beauty. So it's really comfy. It's nice to sit by the fire. And it just fills out this room really nicely. Sconces are from Visual Comfort. It was challenging trying to get additional lighting in the house because there's really only the newer rooms have recessed. So we tried to get as much light in as possible without putting recess in the ceiling. So these are from Visual Comfort. Sometimes I have shades on them, sometimes I don't. I love the way they just fill this space out I have a little picture of my boys when they were little here. It just makes a nice little vignette. Welcome to the mudroom. This is a room that sees a lot of activity. It's really the main entrance of the house. Even though it sits on the side, people come in the driveway, and this is the room that gets the most activity. It's great because we have these dark ceramic floors that are very forgiving, but I wanted to make it feel kind of light and bright. The shiplap on the walls is great because it takes a hit from what used to be backpacks and basketballs and lacrosse sticks. So I put I wanted to make this mudroom feel as elegant as possible. And I found this beautiful Bunny Williams mirror, this oriental rug that used to belong to my parents. So it really is very forgiving. It has 3 closets. So there's a lot of room to put things away in here. And we have this over here, we have this little place to sit where you can pause for a moment. I think this is a Pierre Fray fabric, but you can sit and pause and remove your boots. We have a little piece of art over the bench that I found in Nashville at the Nashville Antique and Garden Show. And it's just, I think, a pretty welcome, and it is sort of representative in a way of the rest of the house, a little bit of the new mixed in with a little bit of the old. This is our laundry room. I was determined to have a pocket door, which my builders were saying, put in a dark wood or an antique wood door, but I really liked the idea of something fresh, a white louver door. It was all I wanted. I love it. I can close it off whenever I feel like not showing the laundry room. But I'm so super proud of this room because this wallpaper is Galbraith and Paul. I just adore their papers. And then we decided to add a fun trim to it. So bought an orange grosgrain ribbon and applied it to all of the ceiling and added some nail heads to it. And it really gave it a nice little lift, I think. The cabinets are great. These were the original kitchen cabinets that we had painted and used them in the laundry room. I have a nice surface here to fold and do my thing. So it's just got a lot of charm, I think, to it. I like doing laundry in here. This across the hall from the laundry room is our powder room, which I used a Pierre Fray wallpaper in here. It's tiny, but this is the room that when people come over, this is the room that they use. And so I knew it was going to take a lot of, not abuse, but a lot of visitors. And I wanted to keep it pretty, but at the same time, be able to handle a lot of people and a lot of use. So this color I really, really loved. Nothing really quite is the same color here. It doesn't really have to match, but it works together so beautifully and picks up these gorgeous colors in the Pierre Fray paper. And then just added a great little Roman shade. Trims I love. Not too much, but just enough. This little bird print that I adore is from Mary McGuire art. I love her things. They're so sweet. And so I really, really liked her here. And that's pretty much it. We bought this when we were downsizing. We have 4 sons, my husband Warren and I, that are 30 down to 26. And we bought this just as they were all getting ready to head off to college or head into the real world. And it suited us perfectly because we have the primary bedroom on the first floor, which is wonderful. It's really a primary suite, and it can all be cut off, sort of cordoned off by French doors to the rest of the house. Welcome into my primary bedroom. The great thing about this, the thing I love is, hold on, I can shut it off. I can shut it off when it gets rambunctious on the other side. And this is great. We've each got our own primary closet. Generally, I take up half of my husband's with my things, but that's what we're supposed to do. And I love the height here. I love this lighting. It's so gorgeous. And if I'm sitting in the tub, in the primary, I can look out here, and when the closets are open, I can look all the way out, and it's really a beautiful little vestibule. And if you come in here, this is our primary bath, and it's kind of uncomplicated. I wanted to keep it simple. It's got a lot of storage, which I thought was really necessary for all the makeup that I need. And great storage for towels, great mirrored cabinets, and beautiful shower, its own little loo. And it's got great lighting. And if you follow me this way, this is the primary bedroom. And I have a lot of restoration hardware pieces in here. I really love them. I sort of bought these pieces for this house particularly because I felt like this room, because of the largesse of the ceiling, really could stand a 4-poster bed. And so we have this. We have a big TV over here, which if there's a game on and my husband is all the way across the other side of the house watching a game, I come in here and watch Netflix. And it's just a great hangout space. These 3 pieces, the 4 pieces of furniture are restoration, like I said. They really live so easily. They always look good, and I don't have to rack my brain to come up with a whole new scheme for my bedroom. And I've mixed a little old and new in here, as you can see. A lot of light and dark. You'll see a lot of that throughout the house. This is a vinyl wall covering. I didn't want to go with the raffia like in the front room, mainly because I needed so much of it. And also it's so impervious to wet, dry, stains, anything like that. We brought this chandelier from our much old, 30 years ago home. We had bought this up in Essex, Mass, and it's traveled with us to every home. It's mostly been in dining rooms, but I thought, how fabulous to have this in our primary bedroom. It just added a little glitz that I thought was so kind of essential with the casualness of the other pieces in the room. When I first got into the interior design business, I had lived in New York. I worked in the fashion industry, and I met and married my husband, moved here, and after a year or 2, I was invited to do a junior league show house, my first of many. And I worked with an upholsterer in Boston, Kevin McLaughlin. I have to give him a shout out because he is masterful. And he made these chairs for me. This is the second upholstery go around with him. And they originally, when I had these done for the show house, and I can even, I'll show you, I have pictures of them monogrammed. He had somebody hand monogram our initials right in here in a chocolate, and they were gorgeous. And people begged me not to have them removed, but I did, and just had another, and they were in orange at the time, and I just put another orange, comfy fabric. These chairs get very well used. My dog, I always say, you here, me here, and it gets some pretty sun, as you can see. Home, to me, is a place to retreat. It's my happy place. It's my place to really kick my feet up and take a deep breath. Thank you, Homeworthy. It was so fun showing you around my home in Hingham. But now you have to go. Bye.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Adnan. Welcome to my home in New York City. I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi everyone, I'm Adnan Anwar and we're in New York City at my apartment on the Upper East Side. So I was not supposed to live in this apartment. I had signed a lease on another apartment in the area that burned down the day I was moving in. I was on a plane with my stuff. I got a call when I'd already boarded from the super that there was a fire going on, he wasn't sure what was happening, and it was probably best if I turned around if I was in the car. And thankfully, not many of my things had been shipped there yet, and I was fine, which was great. But after that, I was living at a friend's house, kind of figuring out what my next move would be. And this apartment was the first apartment I saw. And it honestly seemed too good to be true. It was the first thing I saw that day. And I ended up seeing, I think, 6 more apartments that week before I finally pulled the trigger. And I knew this was the one. I loved the herringbone floors, I loved the light, I loved being only a block from Central Park, and I loved that it was a small building. We're in a townhouse building that was built in the late 19th century, and I have 1 floor of it. It's definitely a historic building. It has beautiful banisters in the hallway, and crown molding, and interesting, you'll see almost hexagonal arches breaking things up, but it was overlaid with a lot of landlord specials over the years that I tried to rectify. Otherwise, they mostly did an okay job. Not a great bathroom renovation, and I had to make some tweaks to the kitchen, but overall, good bones, I would say. I think it's somewhere between, I haven't measured it, which is funny because I do this for a living, but I'm probably somewhere between 600 and 800 square feet. Welcome to my living room, which is the biggest room in my apartment and also where I definitely spend the most time. This apartment definitely had a proper fireplace or a decorative fireplace originally. And when I got the apartment, there was no mantle in it. So it was just this awkward dip. And I knew I wanted to add a mantle in because it felt most logical with the layout and as though it would create a focal point. I was just looking for the right one, and I didn't want to have one custom made because it is a rental apartment. I found out that the fireplace was actually salvaged from a Rockefeller estate that was being redone in Greenwich. And so I put the TV over it, and it definitely presented a problem of the rare times when it is off. It can be kind of an eyesore, and I don't love the projecting art on TVs, and I also can't figure it out. So what I ended up doing is getting a collection of film stills from various movies that I'm always adding to in black and white. So when I'm not watching the TV, that's on. So it's as though I have art above the fireplace. But because it's such a wide fireplace, I knew I needed something underneath it that wouldn't be painting it black, and ideally something reflective, kind of flipping the usual thing of having the mirror over the fireplace. And a proper mirror I thought would be a little too intense to stare at when I was sitting on the sofa. It would make me a little uneasy. So I found these mirrored reflective tiles on Amazon that I did in the stitched square format that reflect the room and also have this almost fun house, like antique mirror quality, which I love. And to fill the space underneath, I did a series of decorative boxes that I've been collecting over the years. I have more books than I know what to do with, and the collection is constantly growing. Books about artists, books that are sentimental, books that were gifts. And this apartment didn't really have a good spot for a bookshelf. So when you look around, you'll see basically every surface that can have books on it has little artistic book stacks on it. And this one has, and if I need extra seating, because I have a larger amount of people over, I'm able to take the books off, put them underneath, and then that adds extra seating, which is great. But another favorite thing is this little Cocker Spaniel, which I found at a thrift store that was raising money for stray cats in rural Pennsylvania on the most awful trip, and it was $4. And I loved it because it was the perfect doppelganger for Cody, who is my favorite English Cocker Spaniel best friend. And the first day it came in, it was the funniest thing because Cody was sniffing it and almost kissing it. So I think he recognized that it was the same kind of dog as he is. I definitely wanted a good reading nook in this apartment, kind of a hangout spot, comfortable chair and ottoman, and I ended up going really bold and doing one in my favorite color, which is orange, and having this pillow from Uzbekistan and this Carolina Irving pillow on it to kind of soften it up with this mid-century lamp that has this kind of trendy pleated shade on it that I thought kind of mimicked the bowl that I keep my marble collection in. And above it, this wall has a lot of rectangles. It has rectangular art. It has the TV. It has the fireplace. But this space looked very strange, being completely empty. And so the best solution ended up being a wall of plates, which is not something I do often. And these plates, most of them are from a set called the Hybrid series by Saletti. And I was so obsessed with the way they mixed Eastern and Western pottery traditions and these kind of spliced designs, but they're the kinds of plates that I wouldn't really want to eat on. I would never want to set a table with them, and they were just perfect for the wall, but there wasn't quite enough from the whole set to fill the area what I wanted. So I found this plate when I was at my friend Amy's wedding in Florida. It was just a one-off, a whole set wasn't available, which is great, because a whole set of it would be a little too Beauty and the Beast for me to set a table with, but I just loved the playful French details. And that plate is from Francis Ford Coppola, and the one on the top is a very classic Blue Willow pattern, and it almost looks as though it could be spliced in half to make one of the plates from the Saletti set. And you can see I have places for candlesticks everywhere, because when I do entertain, I think lighting candles is so wonderful. And I love these little matches also. They're too pretty to light almost, but a client gave these to me, and I thought this was a nice way to display them, having them tucked in. When I set up the chair, having like a big thing of orange I felt was kind of overwhelming, a big block. So I ended up breaking it up with this embroidered shawl from my great grandma. And I love the way it adds softness and puts it in a place of honor versus sitting in a drawer. And because it's black, it feels so crisp and contemporary to me, even though it's very old. I'm always rotating out the book that I have in this spot, but it's great. I love this chair. It's definitely my favorite seating place in the apartment. One thing I would say about being in a smaller space is you need to really prioritize having your favorite things and the things that are most important to you to meet your lifestyle requirements, whether that is you work from home, if you like to have people over for dinner, and really build the layout around those occasions. So there's no substitute for having a really good floor plan when you get started of where things will go. Another thing that I love for storage is having skirted sofas, because I think skirted sofas can often win you a little bit of space underneath and also under bed storage. This apartment, I was very lucky in that it honestly had more storage than I needed almost. It had 3 walk-in closets, which is a big reason why I took the apartment. I think what you see in my apartment is that I am a hunter for interesting things, first and foremost, and then find places to fit them in and build the room around those pieces and ways to display them, I would say. now that we've gone through my kind of fireplace and my reading nook, this is the main seating area of the apartment that you see when you walk in. I ended up going with a white skirted slip-covered sofa because of Cody, because it can go in the wash, but also because it allows me to be constantly rotating and show a really fun mix of pillows, because I like all of these fabrics individually, but they weren't something that I would have wanted to do a set of 2 in. I generally don't love things to be too matchy-matchy, I'd say. And so this pillow with the dragon is from Daydar. This was a gift from my friend Lucy, and it's an old Killam rug that was chopped up. This one's from Schumacher. This is a Nisha Crossland pillow. And this is a vintage sari from India that I think really grounds the room to have on the back of the sofa. And then this pillow is the same fabric as the reading chair to add some continuity to the space. And then the 2 side tables are both antique English. One's from the 1820s and one's from the 1840s. And just love the little inlay in them and how they give me a space to display some of my favorite objects. I found this in the trash, actually. And it's kind of this bedazzled old bottle that was just the prettiest thing. And I was with a friend at the time who is very germophobic, and we were headed to his apartment. And so he actually made me leave it outside the door while we were hanging out, but I wasn't gonna leave it behind. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I try to have a mix of crafty things and really modern objects. And these lamps are from Orifors from the 1950s by Carl Fagerland. And I ended up swapping in this white linen that kind of got lost in the room and I don't think did them justice. And I love how the pink and the orange and the red tie together a lot of colors that are present throughout the apartment. This is a tortoise shell that I thought almost looks like art. I bought it from an antique dealer who was closing his doors, he was retiring, and I just loved it. And it was the perfect size. And when I do a gallery wall, I love to have some 3-dimensional elements to give it some more interest than just a sea of flat things. And so the first things I hung were this textile, it's a painting on fabric that my mom gave me. I had this framed, I had that, and then the other 3 pieces took a little more time. So for a good bit, this gallery wall was incomplete. But I loved how this piece almost looks like a blown up Indian miniature in a lot of ways, but it has cherubs in it and some things you don't usually see in art of that genre. And then this is a Hiroshi Sugimoto photograph. I spent a lot of time doing photography in high school, so you'll see a lot of that throughout the apartment. And then this is a collage by Mary Ellen Horty that I love collage and decoupage, and it adds a nice mix of media. Here you get photography, you get photography from a very different era. This is from a series a German photographer who went to Mexico in the 1920s did. And you see this incredible cactus that is just out of this world. And the scale is so dwarfed by those little horses. Then I have this, I have that. And they're all from different time periods, and they all have a very different soul. And so, but I think they go together well, and they helped fill out the space, because I wouldn't have wanted just this large piece over the sofa. And yeah, then here you'll see this is where Cody's bowl is. I'm always looking for little pretty china pieces that he can use to eat his food out of, because I think most dog bowls are just butt ugly and drive me crazy. And I get them cheaply enough that if they break, I don't really care. And then there's another 5 waiting in the wings. It's honestly enables my hoarding, and I'm very okay with it. This candelabra is covered in these little votives that are wrapped in East African fabrics, and I bought them from this not-for-profit in Tel Aviv that gives work to East African migrants and allows them to celebrate the craft from where they came. But And I love the way it fills the space underneath the coffee table. This is the book that everyone opens and looks at when they come into an apartment. I'm like a diehard Kardashian fan. I've watched the show from the beginning, and it's a compilation of all of her selfies up to this point. And like clockwork, whenever someone comes over who hasn't been to my apartment before, they notice it and they want to flip through it. Even if I bury it, like it doesn't need to be prominently on a table, it still is always a kind of topic of conversation. And this candle sits on a bird's nest that I found in the fall in my grandma's garden, and it's very special to me because she passed away 2 months ago, and I always think of her and her gardens, which were very important to her, when I see that piece. Yeah, and there's also a kind of funny accidental Kardashian reference in this chair, because I bought this chair. It was so ugly, but I thought it had potential. It kind of reminded me of a grotto chair, but a little less glitzy and absurd, and it was super comfortable. So I bought it. I took a leap of faith. It was upholstered in this burgundy, strange, furry fabric, and I had it recovered, and then it arrived. And then 2 months later, Kim Kardashian did a Skims shoot sitting in basically the exact same chair, painted white. So that's kind of a fun chair. I like how it really balances out the chair on the other side, which is very different because this is a mid-century chair that I had covered in this leopard with these satin buttons, and then I added bouillon fringe too, because I love using bouillon fringe on more modern silhouettes. My coffee table was another find that presented itself to me from the garbage. In my last apartment, I had the most beautiful coffee table. It was a French Directoire table. It fit the space perfectly, but it was so flimsy and uninviting that no one would put their feet on it. It constantly needed Windexing, and no one would put their glasses on it. And so this time, my one requirement was I wanted a table that felt indestructible, beaten up, that no one would feel bad about putting their feet on. And this presented itself to me right outside the door of a client meeting downtown. And I ended up taking it home in an Uber immediately. And I love the scale of it and how it's kind of early American inspired, but it also looks a little bit Indian at the same time, and so it kind of fits all the bohemian touches in the apartment. And it's a great place for me to display my latest favorite art books, interesting little dishes that I find, trinkets people give me. And then I have this fun chess set, which also lately, I only added that recently. And I find that people who did like chess camp or chess things growing up always want to play it when they come over, which is really fun. Kind of a funky touch to the apartment. So I've always been really passionate about interior design. Even as a kid, I used to read all the shelter magazines in the aisle at Barnes & Noble and love going to estate sales and antique stores with my parents and grandparents. So I loved material culture, and I didn't really know how to make a career out of that, honestly. In high school and in college, I did little decoration jobs on the side, and I would sell art and antiques for extra money. But again, I didn't really see it as a job. I mean, I considered going the shelter magazine route and becoming an editor, but when I graduated from college, that world was kind of imploding, it felt, and it wasn't a great time. So I went into corporate America, and I was a management consultant. And I was on 2 projects that were in the home industry that I really loved. And that made me realize that I could be at this intersection of home retail and business that I really loved. And it led me to joining Schumacher, the iconic fabric and wallpaper house, where I worked for several years. And on the side, I was continuing to interior design. And when the pandemic hit, my business completely exploded. And I had this also reflection that this was the work I really wanted to be doing when the world was locked down. And I was so excited about waking up to decorate. And so I went down that path and did it for several years, and that's where I am now. Right now, I'm an interior designer, and I'm also part of the team at Palazzo, which is an awesome startup that allows homeowners and interior designers to use AI to visualize and experiment with changes in their space. I love tableware. I am like an unapologetic hoarder of tableware. The oven's full of it. The spot above the kitchen cabinets is full of it. There's stuff under the sofa, like you name it, I see it, I want it. And so I love setting the table and cooking for people. I don't get to cook enough, I'd say, just with how busy I am. But when I get the opportunity to, or even I'll even set the table if I order Chinese food just for myself. And this dining area, there wasn't a spot to put an overhead light because I already had an overhead light in the middle of the room. And so I ended up finding this extra tall old floor lamp, which was actually another garbage find, funny enough. I found the shade and the lamp a week apart in the neighborhood, in the trash. And this lamp, I was actually on the way to dinner, and I was late to that dinner when I found it. So I actually hid it behind the bush of a building on Park Avenue, off Park Avenue, hoping that it would be waiting for me when I got home from dinner. And I think I got home from that dinner around like 2 a.m. and I was thinking about it all night. And I was so happy when it was waiting for me behind that bush still. And I like how it feels like overhead lighting on the table. But this is the one spot where I always have flowers, like clockwork. Always have flowers, these plates, and I have them paired with these French wine glasses that have this polka dot pattern that kind of mimics these Mexican hand-blown ones that I love for water, and then some silver plate and this fun fish service. So really pretty. I just set the table to show you guys. And then these votives are a recent purchase. I just bought these at H&M Home in Paris, but it's a way to get some candlelight on the table and create the mood, I think. Yeah, and then these two, I have the stack of pieces above it. I think I mentioned that I try to vary within any one project the ways that I display art. So one way is a single statement piece, as you'll see later. Another is two statement pieces paired, like artfully. The other is salon style, which you'll see in my bedroom. A grid, the way you see over my reading nook. And a more curated gallery, the way I have over my sofa. But this piece is by Claude Viola. It's a collaboration he did with Hermès Framed. And I love how it carries the orange that's really all over the apartment. And then this photograph is by Doug Aitken. And it's kind of eerie, but I love it. Well, I had it in my first apartment out of college, and my friend thought it was so creepy. That was the word she used to describe it. But something about the distortion of the angle, like you can't tell, you don't realize this is the sign at first. You're kind of, there's this mysterious unknown in the alley, and it almost doesn't look real. And the reflection, I love that work. It's one of my favorite things I have, I'd say, in the apartment. So I was a British history major in college. So that's why I think there's a lot of English furniture here, and I have a soft spot for it. My parents also had a lot. And these dining chairs I bought from a dealer in Savannah who I've worked with for years. And they felt very Downton Abbey to me. And I just loved the acanthus leaf detail and the original linen velvet on the chairs. And they were a set of 5. They are now a set of 4 because I had a Christmas party 2 years ago where someone was sitting on the chair and collapsed into it, which was quite funny, but also scary to watch. So I had all the chairs reinforced after. But if they've made it like 200 years now, I think that it was high time for them to finally be reinforced. I think they had a pretty good run, and I love them. This painting was a relatively recent purchase, and I was actually on an art buying moratorium, which I have to do periodically. But I saw it and I just couldn't say no. It's by a Chicago artist named Yvette Mayorga. She's really popping off right now and making great strides in her career, even though she is very early. Her mom worked as a cake decorator at grocery stores. And so that gave her this artistic language that she wanted to apply to fine contemporary art and really celebrate the struggle of these workers who, many of whom cross into the country illegally and work in service industries. And what she did is she went deep into the canon of art history and found vases and vessels at Versailles and recreated them in this pasty, cake decoration, but she uses that language to make a lot of commentary on Gen Z and femininity and generational differences in general. So you see the Hello Kitty, you see the little car, but you also see the tears and some of the struggles. And I just love the piece. It's such a conversation starter and a really joyful contemporary thing. And it's the first piece you see really when you walk through the door. A dog is the most important thing to bring a home to life. So if you have the opportunity to bring a beautiful English Cocker Spaniel into your life, that's the best recommendation I have to make a house into a home. I would also say personal touches are really key. That could be books, it could be objects from people's family. I believe those are so key to making a home not look like a showroom and not look like a store. I also think it's really important to not get everything from your home in the same place and incorporate things that are vintage and antique, because those add a sense of depth to a room. And in the history of design, we've been through so many cycles at this point that there is something vintage and antique for everyone's personal style. Another thing I would say that really brings a home to life is having natural and living things. I always try to have cut flowers, even if they're just a single arrangement from Bodega or Trader Joe's. That and a houseplant adds so much to a space. I definitely am not a hardcore plant dad. I actually kill everything within a few months and just replace them, but those add a lot of life and joy to an apartment, I find, and any home. My kitchen, which is open to my living room, it works out really well because if people are over, I can cook and they can still talk to me, and I can also still watch the TV when I'm cooking. But my kitchen also functions as the entry to the apartment, so I wanted to do the best I could to spruce up the rental kitchen that I inherited from the previous tenant. So the cabinets were this hideous birch color that felt very dated, and it drove me completely insane until I had this idea to have them wrapped in this black wood contact paper and then add these vintage brass pulls. And I think they make the smaller kitchen feel more like a bar and less like a small kitchen. And I love how the very first thing you see when you walk in is the bar, which for most people would not be a functional place. But for me, this is honestly the perfect height to reach for my Cointreau, the things I use most. And it's really welcoming. You know when you're going to walk through the front door, if that's the first thing you see, you know you're going to have a good time. So that's my bar. I use my oven somewhat. However, it does heat the place up a lot, so I'm more of a stove guy. This bowl is from my grandma. It used to actually be in their kitchen over the stove. And when she gave it to me, I started using it for my fruit and produce. And it's really a nice green thing to see when you walk in. And you can see Cody's. A friend gave me this mouse pad of Cody, and you can see him on the fridge. I try not to let the fridge become full-on mom fridge with a million things, which is why I don't let myself have many magnets and clips. But sometimes things do pile up. But you can see I used all the space above also for some of my favorite cookware and pitchers and really easy to access things. I love my Euro machine. I am a huge coffee drinker and I can't imagine my kitchen without it. I'm completely addicted and it is the most important thing in this whole kitchen. But this kitchen, for I guess it's small, so maybe this isn't surprising, only has one drawer. And that presented this problem of where to put my silverware, which I also have a lot of because it's the cousin of tableware. And so I ended up storing them on the counter in these cups that are from this old Missoni collaboration with Target. And I think they're very fun. And then I also, because of the drawer issue, end up keeping all of my wooden spoons and cooking utensils inside this old glazed salt crock, which is really fun. Herbs on the counter, very easy kitchen. And the apartment had boob lights throughout, these flush mounts that were just terrible. So that was the first thing I changed. You see I did the chandelier in the living room, and then here I did this crystal one that felt very fun. I liked how it was silver because that genre of fixture is usually in brass, and it reminded me a lot of the light fixtures at a hotel my family would go to a lot growing up. So that was really special. When you walk into the kitchen, I have some of my little sort of sentimental things. This little picture my friend Lauren had painted for me, and I just love it. It's such a happy thing to see when I walk in. That's Cody at the beach. And then this little fish is from Hawaii. So it's kind of this happy beach moment right when you walk in the front door. And I love that about it. And the other thing I'll say about the kitchen is, this is the other first thing you see when you walk in besides the bar. It's a poster from a music festival in the 60s. And I discovered this, I want to say in 2015. MoMA did a recuration of their permanent collection to really focus on the 60s, where each room was a different year of the 60s. There was 60 or 61, etc. And each year also had spanned different media. So there was a car in the galleries, there was music posters. This poster I saw on that show, and I love Egyptian motifs, and I saw this poster and I just loved it. I sort of assumed, oh, it's in a museum, like there's no way I'll be able to get this. But then I looked it up and there was one available, very reasonably priced. So I bought it immediately after, and it has my favorite color, the orange and the blue, and then the pink, which references Yvette Mayorga and lots of the other things. I know hanging art on doors might seem a little bit crazy, but I was running out of space, and because it's the first thing you see between a bunch of command strips, it's pretty sturdy, and it's a storage closet I don't use that often, so I felt fine about it. I also put art on this door, this painting from Mexico, which also has the same color palette. We keep coming back to the greens, the blues, the pinks, and the oranges, so that's definitely my palette. For hosting people, I don't think it's fun to be like a short order cook. I really don't want to cook for more than 3 people, but I love having people over for kind of hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, and I'll use the dining table and cover it in apps. This becomes the bar, and it's really fun. You can see recently I've been very into making chicken and morels and a lot of French bistro fare. I think because I got the Barefoot in Paris cookbook and was just in Paris in early January. So you can see I have Madeira out and sherry vinegar and olive oil for making salad dressing. The other favorite thing is the butter crock, which is where I keep my butter because I love having it soft at room temperature. And I am diehard. I can't imagine bread with butter, making cheese sandwiches. It's great. My art is the favorite thing about my home. I love that I get to live with it and enjoy it and display it in so many different ways, from arrays to group together to salon style to individual standalone pieces. There's a lot of wall space for a small apartment. Another favorite thing about my apartment is all of the textiles and the mix of different colors and patterns throughout the apartment. One thing about the world of pattern that I love is how much range there is, and I try to celebrate all of it and all of the different ways of making textiles. I have block prints in here, I have silk ikats, I have kilims, I have embroideries, I have stripes, I have a zebra hide, and I love that about the apartment because it gives it so much depth. And some of them are pieces from my grandma or gifts from friends, and those are even more special because they have a personal touch and in addition to being beautiful, and remind me of those people. Right off the kitchen, I have my bathroom, and this was another rental renovation from the landlord that I had to kind of deal with and make the most of. So what I did to break up the sea of white was add in this removable grass cloth paper. I swapped out the light fixture with this fun mid-century one from Belgium, put in one of my glasses, this great block print shower curtain from West Elm's collab with Rhode. I keep my soap on an antique plate that I got on Nantucket. I put this French pastel that I just love. And then this needlepoint that my grandma did out of a kit. And it's actually special because she usually didn't finish handicraft projects. She would start them but not finish them. So this is one of the few ones she actually finished, and I think it's very happy and it fits the color palette. And then on the floor I added this rug from Greece that was the first thing I put down. I think I generally like to do Oriental or Caucasian rugs on the floors of bathrooms. Not super valuable or special ones because there's going to be a lot of moisture, but I think it adds a lot of depth. And I also swapped out the toilet seat for a wood one just to add a little warmth and old-timey charm to the room. And then this folk art portrait that you see reflected in the mirror is really charming. It's a little creepy, but I love the oranges she's holding and her facial expression and the blue frame. Let's head to my bedroom next. Follow me. Welcome to my bedroom. Full of some of my favorite things. It's very cozy, gets amazing light in the morning. My bed is a 4-poster bed, which I think is so cozy and welcoming. I love to do 4-poster and canopy beds whenever I can. And I'm definitely obsessed with bed linens. It's kind of a cousin of being obsessed with tableware, I'd say. So I always, every week, am excited to pick the mix of bed linens that'll go on my bed. And a lot of them are antiques. So these open cutwork embroidered ones are from France, from the 19th century. And they're mixed with Matouk and Yves de Lorme-Shams, this pretty blanket from Pendleton, and then this old Suzanne. And I think Suzannes are so graphic, and this beige one doesn't compete with the gallery wall, but it really finishes off the room and makes the bed less of a sea of white in the middle of the room. And these pillows are from a collaboration Etro, the fashion brand, did with Clarence House. And I like how they're kind of a pair. They don't fully match, and they have animals on them, which I love. This is my favorite animal, but I also love monkeys and toucans, and I think they're really special. My bedside tables were actually, I had very limited space, but it was important to me to have a pair of bedside tables. And so I ended up finding these at West Elm that were just the right size. And I replaced the hardware with these kind of chinoiserie ones from Etsy. I think they really changed it. And so I keep a box to keep my medicine in, usually have a book, a dish, and a plant to add some greenery. But the most important things in this bedroom are, I'd say, the bed and the gallery wall. It's such a nice thing to wake up to and also go to bed to. You see some of my favorite pieces that are really sentimental and things that I've just found, and they all get a place of honor. I love this photo of Jackie Kennedy and Lee Radziwill because my grandma actually met Jackie Kennedy on that trip. So, and that's in her hometown. So that feels very special. This Slim Aarons is Sea Drive, which has been my favorite Slim Aarons forever. And I only found out a few years ago that this woman is a really close family friend, because I'd never seen a label. And when my mom told her, like, that's his laptop screensaver, that's his favorite image, she actually sent me one of the photos for my birthday that year from the original run. So it's really a special piece, and I like this, one of the first one I see when I walk in. This is just a map of the New York City subway that this artist in front of the Guggenheim makes into these faces, and I think it's just so great. I love street art here. This was another street find I bought from someone outside the Whole Foods. Yeah, and then there's a lot of homages to Cocker Spaniels throughout the apartment. So you saw the little Cocker Spaniel figurine. Another one is Carolina Herrera, who's a big style icon of mine, with her childhood Cocker Spaniel. And Carolina walks the reservoir every day, and Cody and I ran into her, and she pet him, and it was very special. This piece with the snake, I found at a flea market in Bangkok, and I actually was taped to the back of a bookshelf of a rare books dealer. And there was something about it just really sucked me in, and I wanted to have it. And so I found a cool frame for it, and it's kind of funny having it next to this other snake that my friend Allegra gave me. I try to have like little connections between photos I put next to each other. Like that's why like you see like the Carolina photo, the Slim Aarons, the Jackie, those all they're kind of a genre together. The snake is next to a snake. There might be color. Like this painting used to be in my parents' library, and it was always one of my favorites. It has that rusty orange and the red, and kind of reminds me of the gates in Cinderella, but I just love it, and the silver frame. This portrait I found on Cherish, and I thought it was very ambiguous. Like there was something sort of robotic about her, but then there was also something kind of folksy about her and kind of ethnographic, and the color palette was just right. I love textiles. This is by, I have two pieces. This by her, by this textile artist based in Inwood. This is from a sample of some work she did with Peter Marino for the Chanel store. And then this is just one of her awesome embroidered works. I think her work is so fantastical and like dramatic, and it mixes up the other pieces. The dresser is an English serpentine dresser. It kind of fits with all of the other English furniture in the room. I think the serpentine breaks up some of the boxiness of this room because it is very rectangular, and then there's a bed. And I like this modern sculpture, how it kind of offsets that. And then the print on this lamp references all the other textiles in the room. And this mannequin I love to put hats on. Like for a point this summer, he had the kippah from my best friend's wedding. And I got him on Cherish probably 10 or 12 years ago now. And I put, right now he's wearing this hat that I bought off of a motorcyclist in Vietnam. Usually you see like hats there that are made of this material in like the typical cone shape, but something about this one being a baseball cap really stood out, and it doesn't like fit me. Like it just doesn't. It's not the right shape for my head, doesn't look good, but it does work on him, which is great. So now he gets to wear it. And this tree basically gets replaced every 5 months when I kill the other one, but I like having something green to fill this corner. This Milo Bauman chair has always been one of my favorite designs, but it's never been able to work for spaces that I've needed. And then in this apartment, I finally found a spot for it, I should say. And so I like how it takes this very traditional English Chippendale design, like some of the English furniture that I have, and reinterprets it in a modern way that's mass producible with the chrome. And then I keep this Dransfield and Ross indigo pillow on it to soften it. Kind of a garbage can, just kind of making a little vignette, a place to throw things and finish out the bedroom. And this Picasso poster behind it is so great. It's from a show he did in the late 50s, and I think the figures are so crisp, and I like the typeface on it a lot. And the burled wood frame, which Milo Bauman used a lot, felt very right to be next to it. The last thing in this room I'll show you is above my nightstands, I have these Otago Kunisadas, who was a really prolific Japanese illustrator. And after I bought these and hung them up, I found out he's actually a distant relative of one of my favorite clients. And so that was a very small world thing to realize. And I have 6, so I have 3 on each side of the bed. You have an art problem when you're hanging art behind doors that are closed 95% of the time. But this piece was a gift from a friend. And she found it at a Goodwill in rural Florida, and it has this fascinating story. It was from a gallery in Cairo. It still has the markings in the 1960s, and there's something really great about the water and the lines and the curves, and I love the draping and how exaggerated it is, almost the way you see in El Greco paintings, and the architecture and the landscape, the color. It really filled this spot perfectly. This room has so much going on, I wouldn't have wanted to continue the gallery wall onto the side. And on the floor, I just have a Tuareg mat, which are used by like Bedouin tribes in Morocco and Mauritania to cover tents, really. And I think they're really great. This one I bought from Dara Caponegro, who worked with me at Schumacher and is their creative director. And so it's sentimental in that way because she's someone I look up to a lot. To me, home is a place that you're excited to share with the people you care about. And it's about being welcoming and really expressing your personality and telling your story in 3D form.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.